Alrighty, well, welcome to this week's Talk Ask Us Anything for the third time. It's been a long break. We've had last week we had a casual meetup and a few other things have happened. But in the news, the first item we've got is that Tesla has revealed the new Model X CCS2 charging port in Taiwan. Obviously, there aren't many people that have got Model X's on order, Pete, and myself. But for those two of us in the room that are interested, this is a video of what it looks like in action.
好，OK。好，再关起来。
And all I can say is how awesome is that? The next news item we've got is that the full self-driving cost has risen in the US to $12,000. The most important thing to note here is that that's only in the US, that is not in Australia. So for interest, the 12,000 US dollars is approximately 16,500 Australian dollars. But it's not something we have to worry about anytime very, very soon. And our last minor news story comes from a remote area. That's that the BiØfil has been deployed in Kaiguna. And that's an amazing achievement by one John Edwards, who has single-handedly done more for the EV community in Western Australia than any other person, business or government for that matter. So a huge congratulations to John Edwards. And that's something we're going to get into a little bit later on in the program. And that is the news this week. And let me just reset myself. And we're back to regular programming. Alrighty, so first it might be great to have any new introductions. So if anyone is new, please say hello. I can see a few new names that I'm not familiar with. Either that or it's my goldfish memory. So please do say hello if you're new and tell us about your car.
Maybe they're scared.
Maybe they are. Okay, well, welcome anyway. Feel free to sort of say hello later on, or you're also more than welcome just to lurk like all the YouTubers do. Someone called Damon in particular lurks in about 30-minute slots because that's all they can stand. But welcome back everyone who has been here before, and also welcome anyone who has watched us on YouTube and is coming on live for the first time. I can promise you that it's actually more entertaining live. It's a little bit like when you go to lectures. The tutor always has some interesting tidbits that isn't on the tape. And trust me, tonight there'll be a few of those. So welcome everyone anyway. Let me just reset now. I think it was you, Mark, that had a quick question earlier. So maybe you might like to pose it to all of us.
Yeah, it's just a quick one. When I got my car on the 18th of December and immediately an update came. Then I got version 11 and that changed everything just as I was getting used to the car. And then all of a sudden I noticed that every time I went to go anywhere, the actual maps had changed. So it was actually, instead of direction of travel was always up, it was always north that was up, which is not my preferred way. And could I find the way around it? Eventually I found it by tapping around the actual, the navigate area. When you press the navigate, it gives you your list of navigation. Tapping around the area, eventually I got up a little compass to the right-hand side of that. And then I tapped that and I was away again, because once I got rid of that compass and changed it to not north upwards, direction of travel was upwards, that was how I wanted it. But it isn't consistent. I don't know what I actually did. So I know one of you guys knows exactly what you do to do it. So can you tell us exactly what you got to do so I can do it predictably? Because it's just got changed. It used to be on the map itself, top right-hand side, I believe, from what I've seen on the channel, but on other stuff, but it's just not there anymore. So help.
Sorry, Mark, I missed that whole question because it's my fault. I wasn't on my Starlink connection. I was on another one, and everyone froze. So I quickly went back, put it onto Starling, and I just caught the last 3 words of that. But you did ask the question before we went live. So
That's the one, Pete. That's exactly the one.
yeah, so you're absolutely right. There used to be the button permanently up at the top right corner. Now, in order to bring it up, it does come up when you first put the address in, but then it quickly goes away. It's just to the left of the navigate bar. But to bring it back up, all you need to do is just tap anywhere on the map, and then it comes. Then that whole screen comes back up, and it will be once again directly to the left of the navigate button. Now you can actually toggle through north, which is irrespective of which way you're going. You're always, so a left-hand turn comes up, the left-hand turn on the map, and a right-hand turn comes up as a right-hand turn.
Yeah, that's direction of travel. Yeah, and then north is always at the top. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the terminology I was looking for. Very good. So that's the one that I seem to use the most. It seems to be the easiest and most intuitive, and I found for passengers as well. But unfortunately, that one doesn't come up.
Pete's frozen.
Pete just died.
Starlink satellite's gone and hidden behind a cloud.
Oh no. Pete's got an outage.
Starlink's down.
Hello, Pete. Can you hear us?
Harold's having troubles.
Yes, Harold, you're on a roll.
I think I am.
Yeah, Mark, as Pete was saying, it's just a matter of cycling through so that you get...
Yeah, the cycling through is not a problem. It's just getting that little symbol up in the first place. And I've tried actually tapping on the map, and I didn't notice it coming up on the actual left-hand side of the navigate bit.
Yeah.
It seemed a little bit more finicky than that.
Pete said it was always on the right side. It was always on the top left-hand corner of the right-hand drive vehicles. But it's it comes up just to the left of the navigate bar. Yeah. And all you got to do is tap on the screen, and it should come up. And the other thing is,
right, I'll try that again.
In the new thing, it used to be tap on the screen, and then you'd get the little electric symbol down in the bottom left. But now you touch the navigate bar, and then there's 3 tabs across just underneath that. One of those is the charging station, so superchargers. That's where you get from.
Right.
Yeah, it's something that I'll show in a simulator, but unfortunately the simulator I did do is now out of date by definition, so it's just going to take another 75 photos to recouple that together. No biggie, but we'll get there.
Just one thing, can I just add there?
Go.
Last week was the casual meet. And
yes,
I was
at the Tap House, Kalamunda.
Yeah, and I forgot all about it. And at 7:30, I was sat here waiting to go on. And I was thinking, have I missed something? And then I suddenly remembered. But is there any sort of ongoing thing that, like you do the one at 5:30 to remind you that it's the you go online and do the Zoom meter? Do you do those sort of like a day or a few hours in advance to say it's the casual meet? Did I miss it?
Yeah, I'd sent an email last Friday fortnight, or the Friday before.
I saw that one, but I was on about the same night.
No, I hadn't sent one out that night because I was at Kaiguna at the time.
Oh, right.
And in fact, I did get an email saying that I didn't realise it was you, Mark, but that you had come on, and I thought, oh God,
It probably wasn't me, Harold. It wasn't me. It was someone else.
Oh, okay, well, someone else.
Because I got on and I suddenly was on there. I sat here thinking, hang on a minute. I remember. Because me and my wife wanted to go. Me and Shirley wanted to come down, and we'd forgotten about it.
Yeah, cool. I trust it was a great night. I know Jared was there. I don't recall anyone else that was there. I did see photos, but I didn't really look at them that closely. Pete,
I was there. Harold.
Awesome.
Jared. It was a really good night. It went well.
Yeah, I love the drive up there as well. So I was really looking forward to it. I just forgot about it.
Yeah, the guy behind the bar kept going, "Is Harold coming? Where's Harold? Who's Harold?" He'll be here soon. He'll be here soon.
Yeah, it's only a 1,144 kilometre drive, so it wouldn't have taken long.
He came
The
back.
Model X, that wouldn't be much at all, would it?
Do that in one
No,
drive.
No, about 8:30 he came in and said, "I'm leaving now." And I said, "Oh, Harold says goodbye."
yes, the Royal We. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Nigel. I'm sure I meant it sincerely. Now, before I forget, something I should try and do every week is for anyone that might be new, and you're obviously getting an EV because you're on this channel or you're thinking about it, what you should do as soon as you get your rego papers is apply for the Synergy EV tariff. It's a no-brainer. It basically gives you a 30% discount for your entire house between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. Just Google Synergy EV tariff on the basis that you've bought your car in your natural name, not the name of a company or some other entity. Also, a little fine print is you need to make sure that you are either the signatory of the account or possibly a delegated contact person for the account, and then you can get yourself a discount. So that's really important to do. It's compatible with all solar schemes except for something like your time of use tariff, which is for your purpose probably a better deal anyway. But for everyone on the standard A1 tariff, it's a good deal.
Can I ask you a question on that one?
Yes.
You told us about that, and I was going to do it, and I was just about to actually press the button on doing it. And then I thought, hang on a minute, as soon as I've had some work done on the house, and I've got to get the electrical work done on the house first, I'm going to get a Tesla Powerwall. It's already ordered, it's already waiting to go in. But then I thought, hang on a minute, is there another meter that comes in, or is it the same meter for a Tesla Powerwall as it is for the actual charge, the actual charging time of use tariffs? And I wasn't sure, so I wanted to ask that question last week as well, but you weren't. You were at the casual.
Yeah, same meter. So you've got solar, I presume?
I've got solar, and I just want to Powerwall, and I've already ordered it.
Yep.
But who's you order it with, Mark?
I ordered it through Tesla, so I'm not sure what the actual company is off the top of my head.
So there's a couple of choices here, Mark. In the first instance, the EV tariff is a good deal. You get the 30% discount for 5 hours overnight. Yeah. And there's no other sting in the tail. So there's no like for instance, if you go on the Smart Power tariff, there from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., it costs you about 51 cents per kilowatt hour, which is very expensive. So you really don't want to be drawing power then. However, if you've got a Powerwall and solar, that calculation may be different. So in your case, it might be actually better to do the Smart Power meter on the basis that you tune your Powerwall so that it's full enough at 3 p.m. that it can ride through the whole house until 9 p.m. And then after 9 p.m., you're paying roughly 15 cents per kilowatt hour. So you could then charge your car.
Would that be the same meter though?
Yes, same meter. So you need a smart meter. Yes, it's a digital meter.
Mark, it's exactly what we do here, and we're huge fans of it. In our rental that we had for 3 years, we had that tariff, and we were just really stingy with putting any appliances on between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. and then we used the 15 cents a kilowatt hour to charge from 9 p.m.
Right.
Yeah, and it's great. But having the Powerwall combined with the electric car just makes it worth it, as long as you set that 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. in the Powerwall as the expensive time to avoid. I actually
and it is the same meter. That's the thing, because I don't want to go to the expense, because there is a charge for putting that meter in, and then there's a slight difference in your standing charge. It's 105 cents opposed to 95 cents per day or something.
They do put it up slightly, but it's I actually set the peak time all the way from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. So I include the 28 cents as well as the 50 odd, whatever it is. I just say to the Powerwall, do your utmost to never draw any power during that time. And then I charge the car from excess solar, or during the winter, charge it from 9 p.m. overnight.
Yeah, right. The winter will be my only issue, because I've only got a 4.4 kilowatt system. So I might struggle a little bit in winter on that.
Definitely.
But we'll have a work. But there's only 2 of us, so it's not too bad.
You're going to struggle over winter with a 4.2.
Yeah.
I've got a 6.6 kilowatt system.
Yeah.
I don't get very much spare power from the solar
Yeah, we struggle as well
during winter.
Yeah.
So you will struggle.
Well, I've got about 40 panels, but they're all 110 watt panels. They're a hybrid panel from 10 years ago, which were very good because they generate power a lot better, even in sort of substandard conditions. But
Well,
whether
they're
they're
almost-
or not, I don't know.
They're almost heritage panels. They could be worth
You're
more than
not
you pay
kidding.
for them.
Well, they're actually dual layer panels. There are 2 panels in one, so they weren't a cheap panel at the time.
You mean to say that each layer can only rub together 50 watts? Wow, awesome.
Wow.
Terrific amount. They were really efficient. But they
Yeah,
paid
so-
for themselves.
so was
Over
Nigel
10
10
they
years
paid for
ago.
themselves.
Nigel was efficient
I
10
must admit,
years
I
ago
probably
as well.
generate a little bit more off this chrome dope than I do off the panels at the time.
Absolutely. Let's not make fun of the follically challenged, because there are too many of us
But
in
I
the
can.
greenhouse to be throwing stones.
Yes, but I can throw stones, but I've got the same thing myself.
Okay, now let's get on to some fun stuff. In fact, I see a very significant person with a great background has joined us. So we'll start to get into a couple of videos and some nice photos. So
Okay.
the first one is this one, and what you'll notice is it's actually showing a Model S being charged by a BiØfil. In fact, I'll just share the screen. This is a Model S being filled up, charged by a BiØfil, being pulled by a Model X, being charged by another BiØfil. So there's a little bit of circular sort of charging happening there, and the video goes something like this. And that was filmed in Merredin on the way to Kaiguna on Monday, the 12th of January. And I'd like to welcome John Edwards in the room. It is, like I said in the news, John Edwards has single-handedly done more for the West Australian EV community than any other person, business, or government ever. Now, we've got, so big shout out to John. It's a combination of years of hard work, and it's just an amazing achievement. We have got a couple of photos, which I'm just going to bring up rather unprofessionally. Yes, here we go. These are the couple that were on our Facebook page. I think Rob posted them up, but they're like a little bit of a sample of what we were doing. The first one he posted up was, again, this is just the one of John's charges. This is the one that actually went to Southern Cross for people to charge along the way, and obviously that was just towed by a Model X. Then the next one we've got is a rather buggered front of Model X next to the Polestar 2. This is in Kaiguna. Next we've got John next to his truck, and next to his BT 50. So basically what you can see in the back is this is the BiØfil unit, and these are the two 44-gallon drums or 200-litre drums that are used in the BiØfil system. And this is Kaiguna, obviously. This is the Eucla Motel, which is something that featured a little bit later in a couple of EVs that went to Eucla, just to show that you can actually drive across the Nullarbor using this system. This is quite sage. It says RIP oil, but it should really say RIP locust, because many locusts were harmed in the installation of this thing, and in all the people driving across to use it. And then here, this is actually, I think this was on last Sunday, uh, where a lot of the EV pioneers came to charge, including the green theme. And we can also see Rob's car in the background there, also waiting for a charge, and Jeff's Kona, which also participated in a historic photo that we'll see later on. And then we've got Rob's car at the Balladonia Roadhouse. This is also something that John has installed. This is it's roughly a 20 or 21 kilowatt DC charger. So for Model 3s and upcoming Ys, and even some S's and X's, that will basically double your charging speed from 11 kilowatts to roughly 21 kilowatts or thereabouts. So that's another great initiative. That's actually at the Balladonia Roadhouse and also the Mildura Oasis Pass Roadhouse. And I think the last photo, there's some idiot batting up playing cricket on probably what's got to be the world's longest cricket pitch. It's only 90 miles long. And this is Jeff's Kona. This is at the Mildura Oasis Roadhouse. And again, there's a Delta, effectively a 20 or 21 kilowatt DC charger, which again, in fact, for the Kona, this Kona can only charge on AC at 7.6 kilowatts. So this Delta charger actually charges that car at 3 times the normal rate or the AC rate. So again, that's a great initiative by John to put that charger at Mildura Pass. Oh yes, and this photo, it's good that we've both Rob and I drive performance cars that can outrun the cops, because by the look of it, I think we might have been on the wrong side of the border, but we'll just keep that amongst ourselves. We won't tell anyone else, and no one will worry about it. So yeah, that never happened. Not. And this is the official. I think this was on the John, was this was on the Saturday, I think it was, when the ABC came and did a story, and that's Nigel Ball there, if I recall correctly, behind his car. And this is at Norseman. This is one of the John's other temporary chargers at Norseman. That's a 50 kilowatt tritium that John towed to Norseman for the purpose of this EV Pioneers road trip. And then we're back to where we were. So, John, perhaps you might like to have a bit of a summary of what happened and the whole purpose of this thing.
All right, thanks, Harold. Well, look, first of all, I'd just like to say it's not all my effort. I mean, it's been a community effort, and we've raised the money for these chargers with the Chuff campaign. That's basically UWA's hosted a Chuff campaign for us that allows the donations to be tax deductible, which was a preferred way of doing it rather than other ways that have been done that are non-tax deductible. So the 22 kilowatt DC chargers that went into Balladonia and Mildura have been paid for from community donations, which is fantastic. And the BiØfil unit that's been installed at Kygurnia is nearly there. We've just got a little bit more to go, and it'll be paid for as well. So it's a community effort, and basically a team of volunteers gathered together to go out there and do the installation. So big shout out to everyone involved in that. It was a bit of a journey, Harold. You know, we undertook to get to Norseman on the first day. Yeah, it's a 750k drive. The road's pretty rough, and loaded truck and trailer with all that gear was hard going, and Harold was towing a fairly heavy trailer with his Model X. So that's a pretty significant challenge, and we got it done. And I think you got to Norseman on the first night. Okay, Harold?
Yeah, I got there on 0%, just parked in at the Norseman caravan park, and that was cool. It was a long day. My day started at 2:30 and I left at 2 minutes past 3. And I think we got to Norseman at 6 o'clock or something that evening, or something like that. So yeah, it was a long day. But then I had the pleasure of driving an awesome car, whereas poor old John had to drive a tip truck towing a rather heavy trailer.
No, the truck was fine. So yeah, so I don't know if everyone's familiar with what we did, but we put a 40 kilowatt DC charger at Southern Cross, and we put a 50 kilowatt charger at Norseman, basically to create they were BiØfil units, to create a BiØfil highway to enable us to get to Kaiguna. And then we installed the 50 kilowatt BiØfil unit there. And the reason for selecting Kaiguna is it's exactly halfway between Norseman, where the government's going to put in a charger, and the SA border, where the South Australian government is supposed to be putting in a charger. Originally, I wanted to put one at Balladonia and one at Cocklebiddy, about 300k intervals, but Balladonia were knocked back after several propositions to put a free charger there. They didn't want to muck around with tipping the oil in the drum, and so turned down that offer. So we finally got agreement with the guy that looks after Kaiguna, and yeah, that was the original map. We were going to put 2 units there. It's ended up being 1, but the deltas are as per that map, and essentially you can now drive from Norseman to the SA border with a DC, charging on DC at no less than 200 k's apart. So, and quite frankly, even those 22 kilowatt deltas are quite reasonable. You go there and you might be there for an hour or so, and time for a break and a burger and a coffee or whatever, and keep going.
John, have those 20 kilowatt chargers got CCS2 type plugs on them?
Yeah, that's all they are. They're CCS.
Okay, yeah, it's just that they're not on plug share yet. Are they going to be put on there or not?
Yeah, look, they will be put on plug share. There's a bit of discussion going on whether to make them, yellow pins or green pins. I'm sort of keeping out of that discussion. I'll let the users of it decide what that's going to be. I mean, we had a little bit of a media embargo going on. We had 2 lots of media interested in doing stories on this trip, and the first lot and the second lot wanted to preserve the post, their stories, so they didn't want everything posted, and I just felt that sticking stuff up on plug share and pictures and stuff was opportunity for stuff to leak out. So I just said to everyone, look, let's just leave it off plug share until we get them out there and commissioned and everything like that. So that's happened. I'm quite happy for them to put up on plug share now and a few pictures or whatever and locations where those charges are.
As far as the pins go, I've sent an email to PlugShare asking nicely if they would consider having what you'd call a slow DC charger pin. So you have the CCS plug, but you show it as a green icon instead of a pin instead of an orange pin. Because you could imagine if you saw 3 orange pins across the Nullarbor, some people that don't use PlugShare very much or don't study it a lot may wrongly presume that there are 3 50+ kilowatt chargers, and there's not. And we've had that experience in WA where people have presumed that like the Meriden one that's not functioning at the moment is a fast DC charger, and it's not. So we're just trying to. The other thing too is, of course, anyone that has reached that far across the Nullarbor has had to use AC charging anyway, because there's nothing west of Adelaide in South Australia. So, but we are trying to get a green CCS2 pin. So yeah, sorry, go on, John.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's about it. I mean, the mission was accomplished. We had a couple of spare days between the first lot of media and the second lot. Harold and Rob went out to Eucla and took my son out there, and that was an excellent little trip. And ABC showed up on the Saturday. I don't know if everyone's seen the ABC story, but I thought I did quite a good story on it. I mean, the whole thing's attracted a fair bit of good quality media attention, which is great. I mean, a little bit it was about the Polestar, but most of it was about the charger and the charging with the renewable fuel. So I've been pretty happy with everything I've seen. I did see one negative post today, which I didn't read, but a lot of other people have been commenting about it. Some guy out there. But interesting, I've had a call from AGL as a result of all this, and some guy in Canberra that's been his job in AGL is to work out ways they can promote EV take-up, because AGL see declining sales of electricity over there in the ACT and southern New South Wales, and they see EVs as one way of increasing their electricity sales. So that was a pretty interesting call. But yeah, look, it is getting a lot of attention out there, and that's good for us. And I really appreciate all the help everyone's given to make that happen.
That's a brilliant job you've done there. It really is. What's the cost involved with it for filling?
The cost, what's that?
Involved with filling. So if I go down there and want to charge with it, what's the cost for filling on there?
Well, so at the moment, the proprietor, it's up to the proprietor. So the arrangement is the crowd-funded equipment and installation has been provided by the community. So no charge to the roadhouse. They do the collection of the waste oil and putting it into the unit. They start the unit and basically maintain the unit, and they take all the revenue to offset that that time and cost.
Yeah.
So the Kaigurna guy, Troy Pike, good guy, he looks after Kaigurna, Cockle and Madura, said he's going to offer free charging for the first 6 months. And then he hasn't decided what he's going to charge after that. But the going rate out there is $1 a kilowatt hour. And, you know, that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, it's the middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere, it's harsh conditions. I mean, they got big bills in, you know, running those roadhouses,
Yeah.
air conditioning, fuel, you know, it's all on diesel power and all the rest of it. And, you know, several of the other roadhouses are charging that. So I think that's probably a fairly acceptable and reasonable charge out there.
I didn't read the article myself. Somebody mentioned that it said about 6 litres, was it, to charge a car? Was that about right?
No, I said about 20. I mean,
20 litres. That sounds more like
I mean,
it. Right.
20 litres of oil, if the engine's hot and running, that's about 50 kilowatt hours. I mean, as you know, it depends. You know, if you only put 200 Ks in there, it's probably less than that, right? But if you're stone flat like Harold, then
he would have been stone flat.
You might want to put 60 or 70 in there, so it'll be a bit more. But you know, conservatively, 2 kilowatt hours per litre. Under test conditions, ideal conditions, 3 kilowatt hours per litre. But generally, somewhere between that, 2.5 kilowatt hours per litre is what we work on.
I thought it was a bit ambitious, the figure I heard, but yeah, that's great.
Yeah, we yielded at the Southern Cross unit 2.85 kilowatt hours per litre. For my car, for reference, that would be the equivalent of it driving on 7.7 litres per 100 kilometre of used vegetable oil.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's really
good.
efficient driving for a 7-seat SUV.
Can I just make a quick comment about the cost of the charging? In terms of what's in our best interest, and by our, I mean EV users in general, in our best long-term interest, is we should be willing and more than happy to pay pretty much whatever the rate is that the roadhouse charges, you know, within sort of reason, but look, if the Roadhouse said it's $5 a kilowatt hour, I would more than happily pay it, because if they can see a business case in this, and I doubt that they can at the moment, but the cost would probably have to be somewhere around those sort of figures, I presume, John, for it to make business sense right now. But if the roadhouses or if other venues are able to make a profit out of this, within a reasonable period of time, that all that does is it begets more, charges beget more charges. So the more profitable it is, the more likely they are to put in more charges. And the more charges you have, you'll have more charges, so to choose from. And, if one's offline, you'll have a plan B, etc. But the more, in the long term, the more charges there are, the more they'll have to compete against each other. And eventually market forces will come in and the prices will drop to market prices anyway. So it's in our best interest to more than happily pay whatever the charge is, and to even, to grab a burger and a drink at the venue goes without saying, but to, even leave them a tip or what have you.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And something you've got to do too is order some fried chips and a Chico roll. But before you consume the said fried chips and a Chico roll, make sure you wring out the chips really well to get the last drop of oil back into the container, because you're going to be burning that later on.
Just a comment on the economics. Like, I mean, I've been thinking about this, the Nullarbor. I think I went to a AVA conference. I'm not sure when it was, 2017 or 18 or around that time, and I went up there with Florian. And look, the Nullarbor, there's no business case really that supports EV charging. I mean, there's just simply not enough volume to go anywhere near any sort of business case, right? So, basically capital equipment, there's no way of repaying the capital equipment. It needs to be provided either by a government or the community or a bunch of lunatics, one of the above. But then I think you're right, Pete, is that when the roadhouse owners get the EV stopping there and buying the burgers and buying the coffee and using the facilities and things like that, I think they can, they sell coffee $15 a litre. It's by far the most profitable fluid they sell. And that's our only hope, that they're going to put the effort into maintaining these things. And let's face it, we need them to take an interest in it and look after it. And if something goes wrong with it, if the batteries go flat or there's a fault with it, that we need them to fix it, because it's 1,000 kilometres from Perth. You just can't run out there with your toolbox. So this is just a very early step in trying to get that to happen. And the more we use it, the more use it gets, the better it can be. But for many years, there's probably not going to be much of a business case to support them.
But the point is, it's a trail that's now been blazed, and it opens up that route for EVs that would never have considered doing it ever.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there are mad people like you, John, and Rob, and yours truly, that have gone around Australia the hard way, or across Australia the hard way, and it's arduous. It really is. You've got to be committed to do it. But that's fair enough. That's a tiny minority that would do that. But what we want is for it to be mainstream. And the arguments that, well, what if there are lots of EVs? There'll be a big a big queue waiting. Well, then the point is the problem's solved, because then business will come in and make money out of it once there's that proper economic factor. But really, what John has done is blazed the trail. If you do actually ever go across Nullarbor, one of the roadhouses, it might be the Nullarbor Roadhouse, there's a plaque that says that this roadhouse was erected in 1962 from funds derived from the Commonwealth of Australia as part of the 1962 Empire Games project. So that was to put a petrol station in the middle of nowhere so people in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane could drive to Perth in 1962 for the Empire Games. So that's, like John said, that's the role of government, to put in infrastructure where it's just not economically viable to do that. You know, it might be okay to run a roadhouse, but you couldn't afford to pay for one, to build one, unless you had, you know, a lot of traffic. And really, John has done something that is not economical at the moment, but he's blazed a trail and he's made that crossing now possible. And, you know, that's all it had to do. That's all it's got to do.
Well,
and it's a great achievement.
Just
Well, I
in
think
terms
as
of
EV
cost.
owners, we owe John and Harold and Rob a fantastic thing for doing that. And as you say, blazing the trail. And there's obviously other people there that we don't see. But I think I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone that we really do thank you for that work. And in years to come, people look back and see how amazing that was. But I think it's incredible what you guys have done. And I think it's really worth our thanks to you.
I think John, you know, John said it the best on site, where he would remind us that this is something that's historic, and it really is. It actually, and it sort of felt quite special watching John putting this in place, and seeing the satisfaction on his face, and knowing all those years of hard work have finally come to fruition. And yeah, I really remember that when John would often say, you know, this is historic. And it really is, you know.
Well,
and the great thing is,
to put that in.
well, in 5 years' time, when there are mega charges here and there, and you know, there's DC, you know, power connections between our, you know, southwestern connected system and the rest of Australia. You know, we were sort of laughing, saying that wouldn't it be great if that BiØfil was sort of decommissioned ceremonially and then put into, like, you know, the graveyard next to the old trucks and the old cars and all that sort of stuff. And people would just look at it with curiosity and go, I wonder what that was. Oh, well, only a 50 kilowatt DC charger. You know, we now charge with mega chargers and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, it was historic. It is historic. And it's a real watershed for all EVs across Australia.
And it was a bit of fun. It was also a bit of fun. I mean, we had a good time out there. I mean, it was good fun going and doing these things. But just back to the cost per kilowatt hour, I was the most expensive in Australia at Arthur River, right? So I was charging 90 cents when that thing was down there running on diesel. I was charging 90 cents a kilowatt hour. Nobody batted an eyelid. You know, they're driving down to Albany, and that really can't get there unless they stopped at Arthur River. They're charging at 90 cents, and it was no big deal, right? So I think, yeah, and obviously when they put the charger in at Kojonup, that became redundant. So its job was done. So we brought it out of there. But, you know, I think $1 a kilowatt hour over the Nullarbor plus a tip plus some burgers is going to be how it's going to pan out there, and that'll get things moving. And, you know, I hope we see at least one a month. You know, if we could get 12 EVs to cross the Nullarbor in the next 12 months, would be great once the borders open. And, you know, that'll be the signs that this is working. So, well,
I already know 2 people in this room that are going to do it within the next 12 months. So there's going to be another 2.
Yeah, I want to do it. Jeff,
well, there's 3
to do it. So, you know.
Now, just speaking of crossing the Nullarbor, this is what we want to see a lot more of in the very near future.
Listen to the music. There we go.
That's awesome, Harold. I fear we might get demonetized again, but that was awesome.
Harold, you are amazing. You really are amazing.
We will get demonetized because that was that. We'll put it this way: Johann Sebastian Strauss is not worried about the copyright because he's rather dead. But the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra is getting the proceeds of the ads that are in this show, but it's worth it. Yeah. So
can I ask you a question about the Great House? So if you go there, are they in need of oil, or have they got enough to go around? Like, is it worthwhile me chucking 10 litres of oil in the back of my car and helping top up on the way through, or have they got enough to go around?
Okay, so Kyguna produces 20 litres a week, Cockabiddy 40, and then I think Madeira is something like 20. There's like 160 litres or something a week, might be a fortnight, that they produce now. Basically, they're going to stockpile that oil. I've given them 1,000 litre a container. Mate, there'll be tons of oil for the next 2 or 3 years there, with a number of cars going across. So if we ever get to the point where they're running out of oil, well, then the job will have been done. There'll be some new technology or something else required to service EVs. But at this point, I think it's average 5 cars a year. If that increases to 10, I mean, that's nearly 1 a month. But still 20 litres a month, and they've got about 200 litres a month available. So it's, I'm not worrying about the volume of oil at this point. But yeah, by all means, you've got to carry it 10 litres out with you, chuck it in the tank. That's not a problem at all either. But, I'm not worried about the fuel supply at this point.
Yeah, because you can pick up oil for a couple of bucks a litre in Woolies or whatever, right? So if it's something that's helpful, but I guess you just call ahead. If you're going to make the trip, is it worthwhile actually contacting them, let them know that you're on the way, or what's the...
Definitely any of these places, these remote places, it's always a good idea to give them a call ahead. Let them know roughly when you're going to be there. They can tell you if they've got problems with the charger. They can tell you whatever the conditions are. It's always good practice to give them a call and let them know roughly. And other thing, if you don't make it, at least they know that you haven't made it. So I'm not saying they're going to go and look for you, but I've notified a roadhouse on the Nullarbor, and I haven't showed up on one occasion because I turned the wrong way and went back the other way. But the roadhouse was aware that I was supposed to be there at a certain time, so they alerted some other drivers, and the whole thing got sorted out.
Hang on, John, you just breezed over that very quickly. Can you just go into a bit more detail about what just happened then? And what car was it in?
Yeah, so my only trip I've done across the Nullarbor was in a BMW i3S, which was 30 kilowatt hour battery. And I was having a bad run. It was an early morning start, and I was all flustered and everything else like that. But I made it to Mundrabilla, and I pulled in there and charged the car up. And my brother was traveling with me in the BT. Anyway, so I finished charging, and I said to him, "Look, we're just gonna head off. Yeah, that's it." And geez, where's that? Where'd you get that?
Mundrabilla.
Right. Shit. Anyway, oh yeah, because I had that's right. I must have had the Delta in the back of that thing. Yeah, that's right.
6th of October, 2018.
Right. Okay. Shit. There you go. Anyway,
just helping you out, John.
Anyway, so we were heading off, and the brother said, "Oh, he's just going to use the bathroom, whatever." And I took off. I turned the freaking wrong way, and he didn't see me do that, so I headed off back towards Eucla. And I was looking at my navigation. My navigation was saying, "Look, head back the other way." I said, "No, something wrong with the satellite. That's bullshit. What's going on with all this?" And then, hang on a minute, the mountains are on the left. They're supposed to be on the right. Now, I haven't gone through a pass or anything. I'm like, what's going on here? And I actually drove for 30 kilometres the wrong way. I saw a sign for Eucla when I was supposed to be going the other way. So turn around. So that's 30 Ks, another 30 Ks to the back. That's 60 Ks out of 180 K range. It's not a good deal. So I ended up back on the charger again.
So that cost you probably about 2 hours of time because you had to replenish that charge plus do the driving.
Yeah, so it was a long day.
That just proves that cars need to have full self-driving as soon as possible.
That's right.
I was
Cool.
just thinking that we're on that 90 miles straight. I could just set on a full self-driving, lie back and have a snooze. Yeah, just stick an orange on the steering wheel, just.
How many cops did you see on the Nullarbor, Harold?
Hang on, we'll just as you just said that, Nigel, I might just have to put this up.
The following segment is general in nature and shouldn't be taken as personal professional advice. Listeners should seek their own independent assessment from a qualified advisor and not rely on the general nature of information in this program.
So yes, oranges or jelly babies or anything else aside, yes, there's not much to do on the Nullarbor for 146.6 kilometres.
I've driven across it 3 times and back, so no, I'm not doing it again.
It's one of the best drives. I reckon I've done it in excess of 20 at least. It's a good trip. We enjoy it.
But Peter, some people are called masochists. I'm not.
It's a great drive. It's one of Australia's great drives.
Yeah,
It
I've
is.
done it 6 times. Thank you.
Harold, how much police action did you see on the road out there?
The only cops I saw was when I came through Southern Cross, and I was charging on John's charger at Southern Cross on the way back. And just as I turned left onto the main highway and I found a truck to follow, the truck got waved through and the cop pulled me over for an RBT. And of course I blew 0-0, but that was the only time we saw cops on the road, actually. Oh, and we also saw them in the distance at Border Village in South Australia.
Oh, yeah.
But we made very sure that we didn't go too far. And interestingly, for those that are curious, when you drive east, there's a sign that says there is no need to stop. So when you go through the checkpoint, you can just keep driving. You don't. No one cares if you go to South Australia, but they very much do care when you turn the other way and come back. And we weren't even going to do it as a joke because, otherwise we might still be there.
Definitely can still be there.
But no coppers. The only time we saw coppers were at Eucla, at the accommodation at the Eucla motel, and they were just hanging out. I think they might have been renting a room or something. But hey, Rob, you're obviously on the trip too, and an integral part of driving the BT50. What was your take on the whole thing?
Just a lot of fun. And one thing I've got to say to a lot of people there, the food at the roadhouses has improved a lot over the years. We had four dinners at Kaiguna, and I had a different meal every night, and it was really good. The old Kiwi guy that was cooking was very good. And obviously at Eucla, you've got a photo of the world's biggest Parmigiana.
Yes, I have somewhere. I'll try and dig it out. It was bigger than Rob's face. It was huge. It was huge. I mean, if you had a busload of pensioners, you could all have eaten a little bit of that palmy. It was massive. Great value. Awesome value.
The one issue is because they're short of staff at these roadhouses. The staff are on from like 6 a.m. So basically at 7:45, they're like, guys, last drinks, get out of here. And they close up at 8 o'clock when you've only just started your drinking session. So, which is a bit frustrating. So you sit outside and watch the trucks roll in after dark. Yeah.
You don't go back to your 5-star accommodation? Sit by the pool?
What was the port? The Euclid, was it the Euclid motel?
Euclid pool was empty. Yes,
Yeah, it was empty. It was quite clean. It was on the count of it being empty. They were very water wise.
Did it evaporate, did it? Or did they drain it?
just one more thing I'd like to just bring up.
Go, John.
Back onto the charges, right? I mean, what we're doing here is a fair bit of pioneering, right? And this development of this particular charger is, you know, in its early stages. It's all fairly manually operated. There's not that much automation. The idea is to not have too much electronics and things on there. This place is hot, it's dusty, and you know there's not many service providers nearby. So I think we, you know, just as a collective group, you know, if anyone goes out there and uses this thing and has problems, then I think, you know, it's incumbent on us to not make it, you know, a big message on social media. You know, drove all the way to Euclid and bloody tried the charger and a piece of shit and bloody blah blah. What we need to do is try and assist with fixing it, right? So if you're not technically, you know, if you're not a technical specialist, but just relay the information, you know, ring up Harold or me or Rob or someone to start working on getting it fixed. And hopefully we can do that remotely rather than make it into a big, you know, negative press about it. You know, we had a few problems on one of the chargers of Southern Cross. You know, we did. It's pretty highly strung. It's running flat out, and it was really hot weather. And we did about 3 hours of charging straight, three cars in a row, and it decided to get a bit hot, and it overheated and shut down. Well, you know, that was, you know, we had to open some doors up, we had to put some more water in it and get it going again, and it was fine. But it's not the sort of thing we want to get a whole bunch of negative press about. What we want to do is fix it and get everyone charged up and moving on. And then the learnings from all that, we can feed back in and continually improve what we're putting out there. But yeah.
Can I ask a technical question?
Yeah.
Yes, David.
Is it all done through battery storage beforehand, or is it actually done on the spot when you arrive? You set up this burner and away you go. I mean, what about it with a fire ban or something like that? What's the actual technical way to do it?
I can't hear the question.
So what he was asking is how it's done, whether it's battery storage or whatever. It's actually, David, it's an unmodified, well, basically unmodified diesel generator, diesel engined generator, three-phase generator, and it's being fed with effectively filtered used vegetable oil, so chip oil from deep fryers. So it's effectively fed into the diesel generator unmodified, just gravity settled, and then converted directly to electricity, which is then obviously transformed from AC, three-phase AC into DC for your car.
And that's while I'm parked there.
That's why you're parked there. So it's basically burning the vegetable oil live while charging the car. And something that's later on when we go into Ask Us Anything After Dark, there's a satirical video, I guess is the best way to put it, that we're going to put up. And I'm not sure, John, if you've seen it. And I'd just like to welcome Charles into the room. He's a man that's from the future, 3 hours ahead of us. So he's already seen the future, and by the look of it, it's good. There's still life there, so we're all safe. But there is a satirical video that does do a bit of a critique on the carbon neutrality, and the spoiler is he actually got a little bit of that wrong. But basically, as John has described in his interviews, basically the canola plant or whatever it is, bush plant, uses solar energy to absorb CO2 and turn it into oil, basically. That oil is then used to fry chips, Chico rolls, whatever. Once it's converted to a waste product, because once it's used, it then has to be disposed of, then effectively John takes it, or his system takes it, and then converts it back to the CO2 that it originally came from. Now, in doing so, he's obviously used that energy for useful work in powering an EV. What he has certainly done is prevented it from being sent to landfill, potentially. And if it goes into landfill, it doesn't actually get converted to CO2, which wouldn't be so bad. It actually gets converted to methane. And methane has 30 times the carbon dioxide greenhouse warming coefficient. So it's actually much more important to stop it going to landfill and being converted to methane than anything else. And the bonus is it effectively gets to be used for useful effort, which is charging an EV.
Yeah. So John, when you say it's carbon neutral, you're effectively underselling it. So it's, you know, it's carbon
negative. Yeah. Yep.
You know,
it actually is, because it's a waste product. Now, this argument that is in this satirical video quite rightly states that it's questionable to have farm areas for cropping that are dedicated to alternative fuels, because a lot of resources go into that, and it's questionable whether that's actually appropriate compared to burning fossil fuels or actually using some other sort of form of energy in the first place. But in John's case, it's all positive. What we did find out is that the roadhouses, they don't actually chuck it in the ground, which is very responsible of them. They'll actually, a lot of it, they'll burn on a when they burn other refuse, they'll actually deliberately burn the oil to get rid of it in a what you'd call a more sustainable way. But it's actually better just to go into John's diesel generator or BiØfil generator.
and just to make the point, John never pretends that this is, you know, better for the environment than solar panels and a battery. But the economic reality is that, John, I think you mentioned it will be about 5 times the cost to put in panels and a battery compared to the biofuel?
Yeah, panels and a battery depends on how big's the battery, you know, and
something equivalent, yeah.
Something reasonably equivalent is probably 5 times the cost.
Yeah.
You know, just nominally, you know, 100 to 150 kilowatt hour storage and some panels to charge it, and an inverter and a charger. You know, you're looking at 5 times the cost roughly.
And the reality is, as you mentioned earlier, you know, the challenges with putting in a free charger in Belladonna, and they knocked it back. So, you know, the reality is, if your biofuel wasn't there, there'd be nothing there. That's the reality. So.
And Kaiguna, you couldn't put a 50 kilowatt charger and connect it to their power station because it wouldn't handle it. So, independent standalone unit is required.
Yeah.
How much?
Yeah, absolutely.
20 kilowatt systems cost? Are they, but I guess, affordable for, I guess, other places to put in as well, or are they still quite expensive?
Well, as we discussed before, the commercial reality is these things have got to. I mean, the unit I put down in Arthur River, I calculated the payback period was 180 years, right? And if I put a coffee machine on the side of it and everyone had to buy a $5 coffee every time they used it, the payback period would have reduced to 90 years. So the commercial reality with this sort of thing is there's no business case you can dream up that actually makes it make money. So somehow you have to keep the capital cost down, but you have to keep the charging performance up. You know, the beauty of this system, you know, it's got a few negatives, and I accept that, and you know, all the naysayers and all that. But the fact is that the fuel's free, so straight away you're not paying $2.27 a litre for fuel, so that helps a lot, right? If you can work out a way, get around the capital cost, which we've done with this crowdfunding campaign, all of a sudden you've got a unit that puts out a fast charge. There's no cost in fuel. All there is the maintenance of it, right? And what we've managed to do is convince the roadhouse to take the small amount of revenue it's going to earn and apply that to the guy that's going to go and look after it, maintain it, and in the hope that they're going to get some burgers or coffee and everything else like that. So that's the only model that I'll be able to come up with that can actually get this thing put in place.
Yeah, well, most petrol stations don't make money on the petrol and diesel. They make money on the Coke and the burgers and the coffee and so on.
Yeah.
I knew a guy who owned about 7 petrol stations, and he said he made nothing, if not made a loss, but he could earn 100,000 a year out of each petrol station, purely on the things that people bought after they went in, have to pay for their petrol.
Right.
And I imagine that this BiØfil, I mean, it's a brilliant thing, John, it would be the same. You'd make a business case. You'd have to set up a burger joint and coffee joint right alongside it and go, yeah, look, it's $1 a kilowatt hour for the charge and $5 for the coffee and $8 for the burger. And that's how you're going to make the money.
Well, another way, John, I was thinking another way that you could sell it would be that you don't sell electricity. So you can't go and charge your EV there. But what you can do is you can go there for lunch. And if you spend a minimum of $25 on lunch, then you can charge your EV for free. So link it to the, it's effectively a $25 flagfall, but you're getting free lunch for the $25 flagfall, or make it $50 or what have you. And that way, people, can't be going there because if, once you start charging, be it 50 cents, be it $1, be it $5 a kilowatt hour, people will start complaining about the service because they're paying for it. But if they're paying for the lunch and they're getting the charging for free, it's a bit harder to complain about something that you got for free.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I've apologies to Greg. I've just it's been remiss of me. I haven't been looking at the chat. Now, Greg, you've got a question about your Model S, and basically it's a 1-year-old car, and since the hot weather, your battery range has dropped considerably. So there's a couple of aspects of this. You would probably have cabin overheat protection turned to on. So, and if it is, and that's a good thing to do, what the car will do, particularly a Model S will do, is guarantee that no matter how hot it was outside or no matter how hard the sun beats into your car, it keeps the cabin to a relatively cool 40 degrees. So what it will do is initially bring in fresh air. Well, actually, I think the Model S has just effectively just turned the air conditioner on. So it's air conditioning your car at 40 degrees. Now, as a reference, a car standing in without any airflow going over it can easily get to 60, 70 degrees. So it's as if the air conditioner is sort of on, a fair bit of the time. That will chew through some of your battery. Now, if you're happy for that to continue, just know that that's what's going on. Or you can actually turn cabin overheat protection off. It's a great safety feature if you've got little kids, because it's obviously saved lives, and it also probably helps your interior out a little bit. Although I dare say, look, Tesla's a Californian built car or designed car, and California conditions are the same as here. The interior is designed to be exposed to high temperatures. The other thing it can do too is if you've got Sentry mode on, it can consume about, well, in your car, it'd be about 5 or 6% of the battery pack in 24 hours. So if your car is generally parked, say, away from home and you've got Sentry mode enabled, or if you've got Sentry mode enabled at home as well, say if you're parked in a carport, and you've got Sentry mode on, it consumes about 6 kilowatt hours every 24 hours, which is about 5 or 6% of your battery pack. So
until
that's another.
You get the new Ryzen chip.
Yes, and until you get the new Ryzen chip, which you won't have, Greg. But for everyone that is ordered, well, for probably everyone that has a Model 3 on order, Tesla will have sent you an email, or for anyone that's affected, would have sent you an email explaining that the claimed range that your car was going to get when you place the order has now slightly reduced, and that's because of the new advanced MCU or media control unit. Basically, the touchscreen, the microprocessor behind the touchscreen has been improved.
About 20 kilometers.
Yes. So the processor is consuming more energy in general, well, the whole time basically, whenever it's on, and that's slightly reduced the range as well. So there are two mitigating things you can do if you're concerned about range loss: is turn off cabin overheat protection when it's super duper hot, and or park your car in the shade. And also turn off sentry mode where it's not needed, where it's not in public and it's in a secure area. So that might explain that.
So you can also vent the windows even remotely through the app, which may help as well.
Yes, you can. You can in a Model S, but you can't. I don't think you can close them again.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, no, Model 3 you can.
No, Model S.
Model 3 you can vent and close. The Model S and X, the current version Model S's and X, you can only vent. They won't auto close. And we're surmising that might be because of the characteristics of the pinch sensor, which I presume in the S's and X's is a more old-fashioned current sensor. So when you stick your finger in and try and crush it, it senses an overcurrent being drawn by the motor as it's attempting to sever your fingers. Whereas in the Model 3, presumably they have maybe a more sensitive version of that same sort of sensor.
And the other thing that you can do is when you know you're on your way back to the car, if you've got the cabin overheat protection off, you can turn the aircon on. I did that when we had that episode where the update stopped the cabin overheat protection from working, and I'd parked out in the sun at a train station, went into Perth, and on the train coming home, I looked at the car, and inside of the car was something like 69 degrees. So I turned the aircon on about 10 minutes before I was about to arrive at the train station. And when I got there, opened the door and I go, oh, that's quite nice. So you can turn the aircon on and it runs for maybe 10 or 15 minutes tops.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, was it 69 degrees on the dot or was it 69.420?
No, it was 69 degrees on the app. I don't think it went to 0.420. I wish it had.
That actually reminds me of something I'm going to bring up shortly, and I'm glad that Charles is still in the room. So please do bear with me. This is going to take a couple of moments. So speak amongst yourselves.
I just talk about the rise in regards to your question that you had before there, Greg. Did it answer what you're after, or are you more concerned about the actual range of when you drive? It's not going as far as what you anticipated.
Correct. So I'm going down south in a couple of weeks with my first trip, outside of CBD. So I'm a bit concerned if I go down south, I've got 560. I'll charge you 100%, and then I'm going to go, oh, I lost 100 kilometers here. So that's my concern. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're driving, it's pretty much the slower you go, the further you're going to go. That's probably the biggest factor that affects the distance you get out of your battery. But other things like the road surface, the temperature, and the wind direction will also have a significant impact. The elevation
you're driving.
The elevation, yeah. So if you plug in where you're going to go, the computer does a pretty good job of knowing if you're going to make it there or not. And if you aren't going to make it, it gives you a lot of warnings to say, no, you're not going to do it. You need to stop somewhere. It's not going to happen. But if you persist, the car will actually slow down and not let you go fast and keep you slow enough that you might get to the spot where you're trying to get to. So you've got to try really hard to actually run out of battery power, almost go out of your way to do it, really. I think Pete tried his best for about 2 weeks to try and run his battery out and he still couldn't do it.
Yep.
but it's I think Charles mentioned before about the app called a Better Route Planner as well, which might be good for you because you can customize the app to be your specific car with your specific wheels and everything, and they've got a lot of better metrics in there that might be suitable.
Yeah. Okay.
So there are a couple of things you can look at.
There's also a lot of chargers down south. You're not going to be running out of juice unless you really, really go well out of your way and forget to charge.
Yeah,
Whereabouts are you going, Greg?
And Harold will probably go re-out in a minute. I saw there's lots. I'm on PlugShare, lots of chargers. Do you have to book them or just rock up? And if you're taking somebody there, then rock up.
Just rock up. So whereabouts? Where's your furthest destination, Greg?
Oh, I don't know yet. I'm going to base myself in Busso, and then we'll just move from there. So probably go.
Okay, so you're right because you've got the supercharger at Eton in Australand. I haven't got CCS. Yes, I do. Sorry, I haven't got Tesla. So in Eton, you've got the supercharger. You've also got Australand, which is for a Model 3. Oh, no, sorry, you've got a Model S. Oh, have you got lifetime charging, Greg?
I'm not sure. What does that mean? How do I know that? How do I find that out?
Have you done supercharging recently at, say, Karrinyup?
No.
How old's your car?
It's a year old. It's probably hasn't got. No, he won't have it. So actually, Tesla. How much does Tesla charge for supercharging? Is it 52 cents a kilowatt hour, roughly?
51 or 51.
51. Yep. So the Trendale charger, if you're not an RAC member, is I think it's 40 odd cents or 44 cents a kilowatt hour.
That's 45.
45, sorry. And if you are an RAC member, you get a 10% discount if you've registered your
20.
RAC. Sorry?
20.
Oh, 20, okay. 20% discount if you register your RAC membership with ChargeFox. So if you're basing yourself in Busselton, well, there is actually a fast DC charger at Busselton.
There is,
but
correct, yeah.
of some interest might be the Busselton Central destination charger, because that's actually free, and it's actually in an uncharacteristically good spot. It's at the far corner of the car park, which is quite good.
Yep.
Now, if you're going anywhere down south, you can go to Margaret River, Augusta, Pemberton, Bridgetown, and Nannup, and they are all fast DC chargers. And if you're doing the Margaret River thing, you've got quite a few AC chargers as well, which almost none of them need adapters or tethers. Sorry, cables. Most of them are destination chargers. But you could, if you wanted to, borrow a Type 2 cable from the club for free for a road trip. So
just one question for Greg. Is yours Model S CCS upgraded?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, cool. Then you'll be right.
Couple of tips as well. Probably avoid the Dunsborough charger, the Dunsborough RAC charger. It's a horrible charger, and you actually have to reverse into the flow of traffic to get it in there. It's been very poorly remarked.
So you see there that it's a one-way street going to the left. It's one lane going to the left, and I had to basically, you can see that the angle of my wheels, I had to go the wrong way.
Got it.
And it's you'll probably find that it's ice, so it's probably occupied by a petrol car anyway. It's just in a really bad spot. But two other tips, if you're concerned about range once you start heading out of Busso, is you can try and put your climate on before you leave while it's still plugged in, and that way you can pre-cool the car before you get going. And you're using the power from the power point rather than your battery. So that's the tip. And you can also try and get your tyre pressure up So I'm not sure what it is on the Model S, Rob, but you could probably go to 50 psi.
Oh, really? Okay, so mine's at 40. Okay,
Still
so,
on.
oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, that's not professional advice. But if you look on your sidewall of your tires, you can see what their maximum cold inflate pressure is.
Yeah.
I personally inflate my tires to their max cold inflate. Tesla will tell you, and most car manufacturers prefer a softer tire because it's a nice ride. So somewhere between the max inflate and what Tesla says is always a good balance. I just dial my preference to the side of the tire manufacturer.
Okay.
But the other thing too is,
what Harold, on the Model S or on your car, the Model X, is it 52 or?
for my tires and all the tires my car's ever had has had a max cold inflate of 50. I don't even know what the car says. It's on the placard, on a sticker on the driver's side door on the inside. I don't remember what it is. I think it might be 45 or 46.
46, I think.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. But look, there's not a huge difference between 46 and 50, to be honest. But you do, at the margin, get a little bit of extra performance. Now, just very quickly, while the thought is in my mind, otherwise I'll forget it. We're talking about 69. I forget what it was. Someone mentioned 69 for some reason. And then I think Pete said 69.420. A very auspicious thing happened, and it was actually thanks to a certain Charles in the room. And what that was that John's chuffed campaign for the Big Lap Has Gaps reached the very auspicious total of $69,420. Now, I'd otherwise say that should be job done, and let's not poison it by putting more money in. But obviously, that's a little bit less than half of the goal. So the challenge is actually to put in another $69,420 to get it closer to the 150. So there you go. Well played, Charles. Awesomely played. I think you had to.
I had to say I was watching the total get up, and I wanted to get close enough that I could afford to make it, but it wouldn't skip over it. So.
And that cost you $51 cool dollars. So that was awesome. I'm happy to report it's actually gone past that now, but it's nowhere near the total that's required. So we do need people to show some appreciation for John's efforts, bearing in mind that John has entirely and completely underwritten this entire project. So he has spent all the money on all the charges and all the effort, and it's out of his non-tax deductible pocket that he's had to pay for all this stuff. And
How do we do that, Harold?
Oh, right. So what you do, the easiest way, and I'll do it live, is you just go to Google and just go chuffed Big Lap. And if you do chuffed Big Lap, the first answer is the Big Lap has gaps, and you click on the first result, and there it is. And the total now is $70,550. And bearing in mind, this is a tax deductible donation. So the University of Western Australia will send you, upon request, a whatever it is, tax invoice or a receipt. And they are registered as a tax deductible charity for the purpose of donations. So
basically, you can afford twice as much.
Yes. So if you're in a certain tax bracket, you're actually leveraging that donation so that the federal government will kick in 50% of it. And there's nothing I like better than leveraging an investment. And that's an awesome thing, because to be brutally honest, it ought to be the role of government to provide this service. But since they have failed to do so and are failing to do so, the next best thing is if you can get them to go in 50-50 on you. And that's a great thing.
Yeah.
Just on that, Harold, the target's a bit ambitious. If we can get to 93, right, 93 would cover the base cost of the equipment that's actually out on the Nullarbor now, right? So all the installation and all of everyone's accommodation and fuel and everything, well, everyone covered their own stuff, but the actual base cost of the charging equipment is 93. Original plan was to put 2 of them out there, but I don't think we're going to get there. And I think it's actually just, as it is now, will be a good starting point. I'm hoping to get to 93, and then we'll basically wrap that campaign up and review what we want to do next with the other equipment, right? I mean, bearing in mind that all this equipment pretty much came from our Targa West pursuits. We're trying to do this tarmac rally, and we're taking all these mobile chargers around on trailers and what have you. And that's where it's all sort of originated from. But yeah, 93 is going to be the new target. Once we get there, that'll be an awesome position.
Absolutely, but also everyone should remember that John has put in. John, it would have to be hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of hours, if not, I dare say, you probably don't want to even count it up. Otherwise, you'll feel older than you really are. But you've put probably thousands of hours into this, and a lot of effort.
It's been good fun, and it's been good. It's a great community. What I've found since I've been driving EVs is awesome community of people, all sorts of different walks of life, and there's just such a huge skill set out there, and everyone's pretty much aligned in their thinking. So it's just a great environment to work in. So I enjoy it. It's fun for me. There's no hardship at all.
Yes.
John, are we allowed to ask questions about the Targa?
Well, sorry, Charles, just 2 seconds. Russell, go, and then Charles straight after.
Are we allowed to ask you questions about the Targa stuff, John, or is that not? Is that okay?
I'll ask the moderator.
No, absolutely. No, this is a free for all. So Russell, go and boil John in his Targa effort. Go on.
Okay, cool. So Harold has previously spoken about your efforts last year and the previous year. And the first year, I believe you're in a category that limited the speed to 130 kilometers an hour, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the second year, the speed was limited to 160, was it?
165.
165. The first year, I'm guessing that the ability for the car to actually limit the speed through the interface meant you could just go foot to the floor and the car would limit it. But when it doesn't?
No.
Because can't you crank it up to 130 as max speed on your app?
No, because it actually works in a weird way and it retards the car. It's not flat stick and then you don't sort of go flat stick and then sort of lose acceleration.
Right.
Jürgen, the driver, had to have a racing tacho thing that would sort of converge, and he'd have to back off. And they have GPS system on all cars that penalise you if you're overspeed by more than a significant fraction of a second.
Okay. So my question is, I guess, I was like the 160. Anyway, if you're thinking potentially about going to the max speed, what kind of additional charging capabilities do you need to be able to have the car run at unlimited?
Okay, so there's a couple of sections. So the open category, which we're going to do this year, is 200 kilometers an hour maximum, and most of the rally we're okay because short and tight corners and all that, we're very competitive. But the 200 kilometer limit kicks in when we're doing the long straight, long flowing type roads. So we get those on the Saturday on the third day of Targa West, which is in the 2J area, and we just can't compete with the large capacity muscle cars, and we definitely can't charge quick enough either. So it's a bit of a balancing act. We've got 50 kilowatt charging. We've got an 80 kilowatt charger. And the problem we find is the car fights us. It doesn't know that we're trying to supercharge it because we haven't got a supercharger. We've got a fast charger. and the car cools the battery down and then losing energy doing that. And then we're trying to fast charge, it starts heating the battery up and limiting the charge. So we've got some work to do on getting our charging more efficient. We've actually got more charging capacity than we're actually utilizing properly. So that's one thing we have to work on.
So just on that point, John, you said you can't charge fast enough. Does that mean you're stopping during the actual race to charge up, or when you get to the end, you've got to charge before the next sprint or something?
Well, to put in perspective, the most difficult stage is a 20-kilometre stage. So we have to drive 20 k's at speeds of 200 k's an hour, in between 100 and 200 k's an hour, and then we pretty much turn around and come straight back and do it again. And we're getting rid of 2.5% of the battery per kilometre or something like that. We basically drain the whole battery in that time.
So Russell, so you need to be able to charge between when you stop and have the pit stop, I guess, between the forward run and then back the other way. We
get about 15 minutes.
So can't they say like you go first and you wait and go last at the end and have more time, or it doesn't really work like that?
It doesn't work like that. We have to go. We have to go last now. The new rules are we have to go last because if we have an accident, then there's no other cars involved. It's the first responders going straight to us and taking care of us. Whereas if we're midfield and we have an accident, then there'll be a whole bunch of other petrol cars involved in where we are. So that was a decision the organisers made that we would run last. But yeah,
as opposed to a car full of like 100 litres of highly volatile fuel is probably less dangerous than an EV. Is that what they're thinking?
It's think time to put out an EV fire.
So you mean something like this? Oh, sorry, hang on, 2 seconds. So what could possibly go wrong with a petrol-powered rally car?
Yeah, look, I think that there's lots of factors that the organisers and Motorsport Australia considered with these things, and I don't know all of them. But there is a lot of, there's a lot of, people don't know all the ins and outs of these cars, and I know myself that if you damage any of the control of this car, the battery isolator opens, so there's no live electrics in that car unless everything's perfect. So if you crash it, the battery in terms of electrics is going to be safe, but these guys have got rubber suits and rubber hooks and all sorts of stuff that for maximum protection in case they need to hook somebody out of the car, even though the car there's very little possibility of being live. And there are lots of reasons like that. They've just made a blanket, right, the electric car goes last. And so that's how it is for Targa West anyway, for the moment.
But Russell, good rule of thumb in terms of the consumption. Jürgen always mentions that when they're racing, they're consuming about 10 times more power, more energy than you are driving, along the, normally.
Yeah, okay. And a lot has been said about the braking performance of Teslas, just mainly when you see the videos of the plaids, the brakes sort of catch fire if they do more than one lap. Have you had to do some modifications to the braking systems of your car to enable them to actually continue to brake for the full race?
So at the moment, we're still running original Tesla discs, so they've been performing okay, although we've gone through a couple of sets of them. But we get aftermarket high temperature brake pads, and they perform pretty well. And Jürgen's definitely working them pretty hard. And a really nice sight is if you go to one of the rally sprints, when you see the car come around, and he's been doing a lot of braking, the discs are actually glowing red. You can see the red discs as he's coming to the end of the lap. So yeah, they're getting
Yeah.
pretty hot. But yeah,
Okay.
the brakes, aftermarket pads and standard discs at this point.
All right.
And high temperature brake fluid as well.
Yeah, high temperature brake fluid. Yeah.
And the last question is, if FSD went to 200 Ks, would you just double click and just let it go and not worry about racing? You just FSD it the whole way through the 20 Ks. Would that?
Jürgen's mind goes faster than the Tesla computer by about 10 to 1. So I'd rather have Jürgen steering it than the FSD.
Maybe in a few years' time when the neural net gets a bit better.
Maybe.
All right, thanks, John. That was fantastic summary.
Cheers.
So John, I mean, obviously it depends from circuit to circuit, but you know, if you had to generalize it, the range of the car on the track would be between what, 40 and 60 Ks, something like that?
Yeah, 50 and 80, I'll put it down to.
Okay.
So yeah, we can do 400 Ks in that car, normal driving, and can do about 80 while we're racing. So yeah, now we do a lap of the Motorplex, it's 4.5 Ks, and we use 10% of the battery, 10 to 12% of the battery per lap. So
yeah.
Cool. All right. So at this stage, has anyone got any other general questions of a Tesla nature, or new owners, or any comments, or?
Has Charles had his go?
Oh yeah, sorry, Charles. Oh, apologies. Sorry. Yeah, and you're so far in the future. It's after midnight. It's already tomorrow. You're tomorrow's man.
It is crazy here. That's right. I'm speaking of the future. I just had a question for John about the biofuel stuff in the future. Are you intending to try and raise funds to deploy more stations along the same route, including maybe off the Nullarbor route? And also I looked at the South Australian fast charger plan that the government put out, and they've actually just got destination charges at Border Village and Ullata. So would there be an opportunity to sort of offer biofuels to some of the South Australian locations too?
Okay, so I guess have you got the map, Harold? That map, it's actually the one that's on the chuff that just shows South Australia and Western Australia. Yeah, that one, yep. Right? So.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, essentially what we've tried to do here is just fill the gap where that question mark is, right? So neither South Australia nor West Australia have got anything planned. I mean, once these guys actually plan and approve stuff, it takes them about 4 years to put it in. So this is not even planned. I mean, how long are you going to see something there if it's not even planned? So the idea was it was a bit of a, come on guys, let's get on with it. Right, this is unplanned. The community can do it in a couple of months. How about get on with the rest of it, right? So South Australia need to step up. So I don't know what size those charges are there. I mean, I'd be quite happy to put biofuels there if somebody rang up and said, look, we want to put them there. But at least they're on the map. I mean, SA have got them on the map, right? So,
yeah, but John, sorry to interrupt, but what Charles actually said was that he looked up on their plan, and apparently, quite sadly, the Ullata, which is this one here, and the Border Village, these two chargers are not going to be DC. Apparently, they're now only going to be AC chargers. So
I've just shared in the chat a link of a screenshot from the South Australian plan. Yeah. That might explain it a bit more.
Yeah, cool. I'm going to screen share that now.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Yeah, so that turquoise one says between 60 and 350 kilowatts, and the blue says between 7 and 22 kilowatts.
So it's AC charging only. So they're abandoning Ullata and Border Village.
Yeah. So in theory, it's up to 22. They might install a 22 kilowatt DC charger, perhaps, like you have at some of the other ones.
No, we've got to get our brothers over in South Australia start lobbying, right? When this, you know, I mean, what is it? 2022. And for goodness sake, we're going to put AC charging out there.
Garage is not a good option anyway. It's closed down. It's not a reliable place at the best of times.
Yeah, Nullarbor Roadhouse is probably a better spot.
Yeah.
So, so I guess the question is, look, if South Australia could, well, John, what would be the cost of each biofuel roughly? To be 70 grand, right?
Something like that.
Something like, say, 70 grand. So,
problem is I'm not doing this commercially. You know, if somebody commercially had to build these, they'd probably be a bit more, right? Because they got to put margin and labour. So I don't charge for my time or anything. So, you know, just the base cost of the equipment, you know, about 60 grand. But by the time you get labour involved and transport and all the other electricians and all that, you know, it could be 70 or 80 grand. So
if you were to do it commercially, John, be probably close to 120, 130 grand.
Yeah,
including margins and, you know, risk margins and insurance and, you know, all the rest of it.
Well, here's the deal. Here's the deal I'll put to you guys, and you put it to the rest of your club, the rest in Australia, the Australian National Club. I'll put one of those anywhere in Australia for 100 grand, installed, ready to go per unit.
Which is probably a lot less than what they'd be paying to try and set up off-grid or
a lot less.
Or
well, Synergy are quoting 66,000 to dig a hole under the road at Ravensthorpe, right? So that's the thing.
Yeah.
And would you set up BiØfil as a not-for-profit or something to do this? Would it be easier for you to if it picks up? Would it be easier?
To be honest, I actually don't want to do it. Right. What I want is to show that it can be done, and then for others to pick up, like governments or other charging companies, you know, ChargeFox or whoever the other people that put charges in, say, hang on a minute.
AGL, John?
Sorry?
AGL?
AGL, yeah, Ampol, Gemtech, anyone. Say, look, this is actually a low cost, easy to install temporary solution till battery and solar come along, which is the ultimate. And let's just put them in there, get the traffic flowing, and bring the battery and solar on in 5 years time.
Yep.
I think, like you said earlier, there's not really a business plan for it on the Nullarbor. It's not like a profitable thing, so it's more of a get it done for the community kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think there's quite a few people that would participate in a subsequent campaign. Once John's campaign is closed, there is an appetite for many EV owners to participate in the next one, which could involve South Australia. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure the government's budgeted more than 100 grand per site. So if you do it for less.
Yeah.
And just a thanks to John for all the great work you've done on it too.
Yeah.
I hope to use it one day.
Yeah, well, Charles, how far is your car now? Is it? I guess it's still a month or so.
Probably a couple of months. They haven't given a date yet. Some of the other people are getting their hidden bins in the order page at the moment. So the next couple of weeks that should all be happening.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're all on the Veta Prime Discord, sharing stuff. So yeah.
Cool. Yes, well, you certainly should do the lap. You should do it early and do it the hard way, so that then when you do it the easy way, it all becomes so much more pleasant.
I think compared to 4.5 years ago when I drove my Leaf 300 kilometres DC charging, that was the hard way. I think anything from now on's easy.
Yeah, I must admit, I mean, when you wake up on a full Leaf, that gives most people range anxiety in a Tesla.
Yeah. Most of the time, when you guys get to the range that my Leaf starts with, you start to panic.
Yeah,
when you get
there
down to
is
60
actually
days, you think,
some,
oh, where's the charger?
there's actually some breaking news on the Leaf.
Oh,
Ryobi
no.
have signed up a deal with Nissan, so they'll be able to extend that range a little bit further now as well, along with the 140 other devices that will go with the Leaf, which is going to be very handy.
Well, I'm thinking that Charles had as much hair when he bought his Leaf as, say, Carmen, and then so shortly after lost most of it.
Terrible.
Cool.
On the order, just one more comment on something you said before about the Ryzen processor. You said people were getting emails saying that they would get a slightly reduced range. So
yes.
It's only happening for the long range orders.
Oh.
I'm thinking either they're the only ones affected and the other ones are getting the old one, or which is unlikely, or the fact that the other two have recently had their range adjusted and they've been sort of sandbagged a bit to allow for the rise. That's
gotcha.
So
that's
if someone's ordered a rear-wheel drive and hasn't got the email, they shouldn't panic too much yet.
Yes, but they won't really know if it's a Ryzen until it arrives, because I presume you can then go to one of those websites where it checks. You just open a website and it'll tell you what the processor is.
It says on your screen.
It's on your screen.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, of course. Sorry. Yes. Apologies. Yep.
But you could go that way if you want to, Harold. I know you like doing things an odd sort of way, don't you?
Belts and braces, just in case they could be lying to you.
How did the Starlink go?
Sorry, the what?
The Starlink. How did your Starlink go when you took it away with you?
Oh no. It was a paperweight that I carried all that way for no reason. I before I left, I got an email, a polite email from SpaceX. I'd mentioned that we were doing this EV charging thing, DC charging, and they sort of congratulated us on it and wished us good luck, but just basically said that Starlink is that Kaiguna is not in Starlink's service area at the moment, which is a real shame, because at each roadhouse that we stayed at or passed, I sort of asked, I told them about it and said, look, wait till you get Starlink, because it will literally be awesome. Because all the roadhouses have at the moment is just Telstra 3G. And in many times you've got phone service, but you've got no internet. So you can ring someone, but you can't download anything. So it'll be a huge step change in performance, but yeah, not yet.
So those guys know that like porn exists or not?
You just got colour television. What are you talking about, Russell? Jesus.
Hey, Harold.
Yes, Rob.
You want to tell the guys about operating machinery at Kaiguna Roadhouse?
About what, sorry?
Operating backhoes at Kaiguna Roadhouse.
Oh, yes. So I think Troy's the main manager, and he said he had to sack someone at Kaiguna because he was operating a backhoe to basically dig out some sand that they needed for some other purpose or to put somewhere else. Right. And he just so placed his backhoe, and as he was digging, he dug up Telstra's fibre optic cable link between Perth and the eastern states. And he said that something within a few hours there was like a helicopter, and then a few hours later there were trucks and cars and all sorts of catastrophe. And for quite a while, this was some years ago, quite a while, large parts of Western Australia had very, very degraded internet and phone services. The fine was only $50,000, and the cost to the bill that they also got to make the repairs was another $120,000. All because of backhoe. And bearing in mind, the backhoe guy could have said, "Oh, well, I didn't know that the cable was there." but literally every 200 meters, there's a white plastic post that's quite prominent. And it's strangely enough, on the Nullarbor, it's in like a straight line. So you kind of can't miss it. Every 200 meters, there's a post saying, don't dig here. But he did. So out of the
Sounds like
millions of square kilometers, he found, 2 square meters to dig out that happened to house the fibre optic cable.
Did he claim on indemnity insurance?
No, he was an employer. So he was an employee, the guy that did it. And of course, Kaiguna is the owner. And I presume that there's an easement, and you're just not allowed to dig. If you dig, you're going to get a bill. So the bill was $50,000 fine, 120.
Before you dig.
Exactly. So yeah, thanks for reminding me about that, Rob. That was quite interesting. Happily now, I think Optus has installed their own cable, so you actually see these white posts on both sides of the highway, one on the left, one on the right. So there's 2 cables there now. But yeah, it was certainly interesting. So say again, Charles?
They didn't put them in the same conduit then?
No. No, they didn't. They actually chose, it's literally on either side of the road. So I think there's a little bit of redundancy. Perhaps if a road train if a guy falls asleep and bins the road train into the side, it'll only take out one cable, not the other. But yeah, there you go. Alrighty, so has anyone got any other tips or tricks or questions or quirks or whatever? Anything that's happened in the last 2 weeks that I've missed out on since we haven't?
I've got a trick.
I was going to say.
Oh, well, sorry, go Paul, and then the doctor in the house can do his trick. So yeah, go Paul. Cool. Shoot Paul first.
But mine was just a quick comment. I noticed on supercharge.info, like the map for the new superchargers, that Landsland's now on there, like in the permit stage.
Yes, that's right. And in fact, the person that was responsible for that is in the room. So go, Charles.
Yep, don't have much to say apart from, yep.
Good job.
Yeah, so he got that because he sleuthed the Shire of Gingen council minutes of a few months ago, where they actually approved a joint application of Tesla and Synergy to put in Tesla's case, a 3-stall V3 supercharger, and in Synergy's case, there are 4 bays with a fast DC charger and an AC charger. And I think, Charles, you are a participant or a
contributor,
admin contributor to supercharge.info.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so Australian ones always rush to update those as soon as I find them. I think the most recent addition is the Tail and Bend supercharger in South Australia. So between Adelaide.
Sorry, between Adelaide and
Keith. So south.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. Well, that's a good thing, because there was a bit of a gap between those two, but sadly, it's not going further west.
No, it's not extending it any further. It's just in the gaps.
Right.
Didn't you say, Harold, that in January Tesla usually update their website with the next year's worth of?
Yes.
January.
Yes.
It hasn't updated yet. It's not updated yet. I checked today.
So what? Maybe after the AGM or something potentially.
Maybe.
That's it's not really they don't use auspicious dates, so they're not going to wait for the earnings call. It just sort of happens at somewhat of a bit of a random interval around this time of year. In the past, it's been at the end of the year, and other times it's been at the start of the year. So
it's about the time when the dates that are on the pins look out of date. So they've got a few that say Q4 2021. So you would think that it'd be pretty soon. So those ones don't look bad.
Yes, and if you're betting against those dates, you'd be very slim odds, wouldn't you? You'd be kind of odds on, but
They were going pretty well this year up until fourth quarter. It was about,
yes, yeah, absolutely, and
there were some extras in there like Devonport and Taylor Bend, which weren't on the original plan.
yeah, and as nor was Williams, so Williams wasn't on a plan either, and that just popped out, which was a great bonus.
Yeah.
But as you know, we know Elon's watching. It sometimes gives us plebs some bit of solace to know that Tesla has plans that they're going to roll out, even if they said that would be in 1 or 2 years' time. It's always good to sort of look forward to something. Unless, of course, it was like the Perth Supercharger where we were looking forward to it in 2017 and 2018 and 2019 and 2020. But anyway, no one's whinging.
It's either you wait for it for 2 or 3 years or it just appears. Like a Devonport one, first one in Tassie, first B3 in the country, and it just sort of popped up, being built. That was the first we knew about it.
Yeah, that was amazing. That really was. And I was quite cross at you, Charles, for not taking photos earlier. Like, it was like, come on, Tassie is big, but it's not that big. Just a day trip.
When launch was on, I actually borrowed someone's Model 3 to go there because I wasn't going to do that in the Leaf. So, you know. But that was a good excuse to get a bit of a test drive of a Model 3 though. So that was nice.
I've got a question.
Oh, Richard. Hello.
Oh no, sorry. Oh, sorry. So, Jared, the doctor was gonna. He was going to show us a trick. Sorry.
I thought he fell asleep. Sorry.
No, I'm still here.
Sorry, he's still there.
Cheeky bugger. Hey, if you grab your phones and you look at your app, right? I just want to show you something. Just bear with me. And
Is this a magic trick?
No, it's a magic trick. And you look on your app, and there's a picture of your car, and underneath there's 4 icons which you controls. Right?
Yes.
5.
Oh.
Yeah. What about the 4 icons?
He's got 5.
He's got 5.
How did you get the 5th one on there?
Age is a pensioner.
Oh.
When you're a pensioner, you get the 5th one.
Was that with the latest update?
No. So what you do if you want to do that, I saw this on YouTube. I thought this is brilliant. So you click on one of your icons and hold it.
Yeah.
And then you can change them around, right?
Yeah.
So now if you just keep piling them in for about 40 seconds, just keep zapping them in and being so pissed off that one will stay there permanently.
So the app gets tired and it goes, oh, okay, if you insist, you must really want it.
Which is actually more convenient. And you've got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You've got to go as fast as you can. Keep piling. You can change you can no faster than that, Harold. Come on, get it going.
No, I got it. I got 5.
There you go.
Have you tried 6?
You can change the order now, but it's 5's better than 4.
I think I saw that, and I think the trick was to drag one to the far right-hand edge past the 4th one. But I think
yeah, that works straight away.
We're doing it really well.
I've got a gap in the middle.
Oh.
Oh, I got 5.
So does that mean that I can put something else in it?
Yep.
Yes, it worked. I've got 5.
There you go.
But there's only one question, Richard. Do we what if we don't want 5? Like, what if that's too confusing?
I've got no idea. Maybe you have to reinstall the app. I haven't tried that one.
Oh no, it's good. You have 5.
I've got it. Okay, if you don't want 5, just swipe the icon down. Voila.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Right.
Yeah.
But now I can't remember what I had on my app originally, and now I'm confused. Oh no, hang on.
Well, just choose the ones you like.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's so good. Thanks, Richard.
Well, hang on,
That's
I've
really
got
good.
4 now.
The only way to get
I like that, and you
is to
can
sell your car.
save it. And you can save it.
Yeah.
Hang on, how do you get? So mine's not doing it now. I've only got 4 now, you buggers.
Oh, you've broken it.
You have to do it again.
I've got me 5.
To the right.
I got 5. I got 5.
On the last list.
So don't take it out. Just keep adding to it. Yeah, that's
And
cool.
then save it.
Yeah, and then you got to save it. Yep.
That is so cool.
It doesn't
Brilliant.
update the widget though. It just keeps
Mine's
the
not
widget the
working.
same. The widget doesn't get.
Yeah, but yeah.
That's all mine does.
Has anyone's widget got 5 or just the actual app itself?
I haven't got a widget.
You know when
hang
your
on.
What are you
widget-
talking about, Willis?
Oh, hang on. Let me turn my blur off. Just give us 1 sec. You know when you go back to your home screen and you've got the widget.
Yeah, I haven't done a widget.
What?
I don't think
Oh, that's
I've got
not an
a.
Apple.
You just
that's
hold
a-
down on
I
your
don't think we
app.
get that on iPhone, Harold. That
You hold
widget
down
thing
your
we
app and
tried
then
it
you
the other
press
day.
widget and it will pop up.
Yeah, it's only on
Oh yeah.
Samsung or.
Oh, is that
Hisense.
an
I think it's on
Android thing?
So you
Hisense or
hold on
Samsung.
your app
Yep.
and then you press widgets and you get to pick which widget you want.
Hold on an iPhone, you don't.
And you click it
Nah, not an
No,
iPhone.
no iPhone.
and then it adds it to
iPhone.
your home screen
No.
for you.
Too dangerous, apparently. Cut it out.
So then you can just click on like a shortcut.
Security risk.
Yeah, it's a major issue.
Yeah.
Apparently, it links up with ABC and L can break loose, especially when you're driving.
Wasn't good enough for Apple to bother with it.
Anyway, we'll-
Yeah,
So
you
good.
don't have to go on the app. You just press the button. It's easy.
I've got a question.
Yes.
My question is for Carmen.
Oh, yeah.
Carmen,
I'm
I
listening.
missed you last Wednesday night. I reserved a table for you and a bottle of champagne, and you weren't there. You didn't see it all, which was very sad because I waited, for you to get there. But
It
I
was
do have a
too
question.
far.
I do have a question about your great venue. Oh, fantastic venue! Really, it was a really nice venue and very nice people too, Harold. Unlike the
Awesome.
Morley venue, totally different. Now, my question to you, Carmen, is your insurance company, have they got some issues going on down there at the moment or what?
No, they're doing specials.
They are doing specials. They've got that border special going on at the moment. They're upgrading their offices and stuff. And what's going on with that, Carmen?
No, they're just doing marketing.
Marketing. You taking over Ukraine, are they, with the insurance side of things?
Well, they're getting market share, I can tell you.
Oh, they're definitely getting market share. There you go.
I'm still waiting for a reply from the RAC to a bit of an issue.
You'll wait a long time,
for
Carmen.
5 weeks. And I email them every Monday morning to say, what is the progress? Could you please keep me advised? And they send a note to say, we're investigating and we will contact you soon.
Well, I had
Keep
a girl
bombarding
from
him, Carmen.
the claims department find my letter, and she said someone will ring you in the next couple of weeks. Well, I'm still waiting. They will
Yes.
not reply, and mine
No.
never got to the CEO that
No.
I addressed it to.
How many
Well,
weeks,
I
mate?
asked them to give me
2 weeks.
They've got a lot of, the CEO's got a lot of fluffers. There's a lot of fluff.
Yeah, that's all.
Any idea when you're going to be finished here?
2 weeks.
How long will it take to put this place together?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I do get the permits. How long will the job take? 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks? 2 weeks? You sound like a parakeet there. 2 weeks? 2 weeks? Well, 2 weeks. It's amazing. Amazing nothing. It'll be a regular miracle.
There you go.
Well,
Hey-
I asked what body to make a complaint to. Was it the ombudsman or they wrote back and said AFCA.
AFCA. Yep.
AFCA.
Yeah. So I said, okay, I shall contact them. Didn't help it.
Really? They're normally pretty good. They're normally pretty.
One thing that happened this last week that we weren't here was the West Australian tender for the infrastructure rollout was meant to finish on the 14th of January, but on the 10th it got extended for another couple of weeks, which was nice. So I think there were some outstanding questions they had to answer from some of the tenders, and now it's due to close on the 28th instead.
And I got a funny feeling between you and me and all these people on the TV that I reckon the government will hold off for a while because I reckon they're sourcing money from elsewhere to pay for a few things that are about to happen. So I think my honest opinion, I reckon they'll be waiting. We'll be waiting a little bit longer than we
Are
think.
you
we're gonna
you
be
suing
waiting.
them, are you, Jared? You going for the
No. Well, yes, I am. I actually am. But I'm just talking about what's about to happen next month. Is going to cost them a lot of money, and I'm pretty sure that they'll be looking.
Well, he's guaranteed
extra
it.
money.
Though. He's been on.
He's guaranteed too much. There's obviously some sort of connection why that we have to open on that date, and I'd say there's some sort of I don't know, a big stick from somebody else saying we have to open on that day.
Okay, let's have a little interlude. Now, this is for you, John. I don't know if you've seen it. At first, first there's a language warning because Mr. John Cadigan is great with his lingo. I don't know that Rob's on, but John, I think you'll find this rewarding in a weird way. I know this is about the BiØfil, but it goes into a bit of the Polestar, which obviously none of us are going to endorse what he says about Polestar, but I certainly endorse what he says about John Edwards. So I'll just play this. I'm going to play it at 1.75 times because it'll take less time, and it's still quite intelligible. But this guy has got a reputation of being controversial.
Yes,
so let me just spool this up.
Is it Nigel? Is that the controversy?
No. But just bear with it, John, because he does rightly. You'll see. So let's just go with this.
This report is proudly sponsored by Polestars. Polestars there, love their work, defying gravity with grace, fluidity, and Jedi grip strength. I should have done my thesis on applied rotational kinematics, the biomechanics of Polestars, quantum gravity and Polestars, Isaac Newton versus Polestars.
Bit too fast, Harold.
Endless hypotheses to validate. You'd agree. Pole dancing should actually be an Olympic sport. The Olympic sport, that's pretty clear. Things would certainly be different if I were in charge, because Polestars certainly make Australia less shit. Now, the other Polestar, the Chinese Electro-Swedish irrelevant one. Talk about an identity crisis, right? They're about to set up shop here in Shitsville, of course, and that'll be just next month. Very keen to blip on the public radar. And this bullshit press release is certainly one way to achieve that. Probably not the best way, but one way. The backstory on Polestar, okay, if you're in the dark on this kind of thing. Ford had a fire sale just after the GFC in 2010 to avoid bankruptcy. The Blue Oval sold all of its shitbox brands. Land Rover and Jaguar went over to the Indians, Aston Martin found itself in the hands of a Middle Eastern investment consortium, and Volvo got flicked past to Geely in China. Volvo sort of shuffled along aimlessly for the next 5 years or so, and then it snapped up its former girlfriend Polestar in 2015. Down on one knee, ring on the finger, will you marry me and move to China? I will, she said. We can keep the apartment in Gothenburg if you really want. So they gave Polestar a head office in Gothenburg to maintain some sort of tangential Euro connection, but they actually build the cars and do all of the grubby hands-on work in Geely's factory in China. They're going to start selling the essentially 3-year-old Polestar 2 electric car here in Shitsville next month. Be still, my beating pump. Polestar is quasi-relevant wannabe Mercedes, Swedo-Chinese EV manufacturer. That's unique. Battery-powered Volvo, essentially, from China with RAV. Because deep down, I think we all want that. I know I do. Of course, that's not funny. Polestar Shitsville is busy prick-teasing the crap out of itself at every opportunity right now, grinding away, defying gravity, ahead of the imminent launch here. And they just drove a Polestar 2 EV across the Nullarbor. Because, you know, relevance. 17 January 2022, Polestar, the premium Swedish electric vehicle brand, is channeling the spirit of past Aussie pioneers by trialling a world-first fast-charging system for electric vehicles on the Australian Nullarbor. What other kind of Nullarbor is there? The Eastern European one? Anyway, they drove this luxury car to a roadhouse, presumably in air-conditioned comfort, and they plugged it in while they stopped and ate, I don't know, a burger. And in doing this, they're alleging that it's in some way equivalent to the pioneering feats of, I don't know, John McDowell Stewart or something. Okay, well done. Setting the tone of this release nice and early. Plus, pro tip, world first. Really, that's a bit tenuous in my view. This recharger uses old vegetable oil to generate electricity using an internal combustion engine attached to a generator. Dudes, the PricewaterhouseCoopers head office in London has been using cooking oil for electricity for 11 years now, in just this way. They collect it from nearby restaurants. And of course, electric cars at the recent COP26 climate meeting in Glasgow were recharged using vegetable oil-powered generators. So there's that. That's according to PolitiFact. If you're not from around here, the Nullarbor is the surface of the moon imprinted onto the cultural void of Australia, essentially. It joins Australia's only living cemetery, South Australia, to McGowanistan over in the west, if the borders are ever open. And as luck would have it, on the Nullarbor, smack bang at a point equidistant from East Bumfuck and West Bumfuck, which is also called the Kaiguna Roadhouse, a retired engineer named John Edwards has set up an EV charger named BiØfil that runs on chip fat. Hashtag Australia. So, this is a diesel engine bolted to a concrete slab, burning filtered chip fat connected to a generator that makes 50 kilowatts of DC electricity at, 400 volts or something, for fast-charging EVs, which turn up there sucking on a dry tank of electrons approximately once every grand alignment of the planets, or thereabouts. Props to Mr. Edwards for using an otherwise waste product to achieve something productive in the middle of the gaffer. Yay. Probably not a Nobel Prize-sized yay, but yay anyway, dude. However, you know how managing directors of car companies often cannot shut up, especially when perhaps they should. To turn a waste product into a CO2 neutral charging solution which connects Australian EV owners from the east with the west is the sort of ingenuity that has led to so many Australian innovations. Yeah, Zachary. Just like Vegemite. Let's put some toxic waste in a jar and see if people are dumb enough to eat it. ScoMo. Same concept, sir. Give something useless a function. That's us. Oi, oi, friggin' oi. Samantha Johnson there, Managing Director of Chinese Electroswede Australia, or Polestar as it's more commonly known, whatever. What was second prize? My only burning question, of course, is how the F is that CO2 neutral? Maybe it was just a slip of the tongue, got carried away in the moment, tongue just slipped out. I've had that. We all have. And maybe not, because here's a bit more spin from Chinese Electroswede Australia, just to confirm my worst fears. BiØfil extracts energy from waste oil using a generator, but is an entirely net zero exercise with no incremental impact on the environment. The vegetable oil for the fryers comes from seed crops such as canola and sunflower, which absorb CO2 and sunlight, and the CO2 produced to power the charge system is equivalent to CO2 absorbed. Spoiler alert, I've had a pretty big think about this, and I've formed the view that that's pretty much bullshit. And I'll tell you why.
Oh.
Just before we go on, this is where he actually gets it wrong, because he's about to describe what would happen if you specifically used fresh oil to do this process. And the point he misses is the fact that what John's using is waste oil. And that's the key, because all that John does is divert the waste from landfill or being burnt to being put through the generator. So where this guy is now going to get it wrong is going through all the calculations on why using fresh oil could be a bad idea. So I'll just go through that very quickly, but again we'll get to the point where he for a second time gives John the credit that is due. So we'll just go back to that.
Dear everybody who never paid attention to science at school, vegetable oil is a manufactured industrial product. Any suggestion that burning it is a, quote, net zero exercise or a, quote, CO2 neutral solution is, in my view, completely indefensible and out of step with science/reality. Because photosynthesis and burning the stuff are far from the only processes in play. Vegetable oil is actually a manufactured product, starting with industrial agriculture. You need to deliver tons of seed to a farm using CO2 belching diesel trucks. Fields need to be prepared, ploughed, scarified, whatever, and seed needs to be sown. All of this using huge CO2 belching diesel tractors. Petrochemical fertilizers are typically deployed, and there's nothing carbon neutral about them, given the manufacturing and underlying transport logistics equals more CO2. And perhaps there's also irrigation. And if so, you generally need to pump water using, energy, CO2. And then, of course, you need to harvest the crop with your big CO2 belching diesel tractor or similar Tonka tough machinery. You need to separate the seed with a machine, right? You've got to put it on trucks, take it some distance to a processing plant, CO2, where coal-fired electricity, CO2, and perhaps methane gas, CO2, after you burn it, for heating, is used to extract the oil, because that's how this works. And then you need to put the oil in containers, and it's typically barrels made out of either petrochemical plastics or tin-coated steel. And of course, petrochemical plastic is hardly CO2 free because it starts its life as crude oil and needs a shitload of energy-dense processing and transportation before you get an actual plastic container. Nor is steel a CO2 free proposition because it starts out as ore that needs to be mined with huge diesel machines and transported on massive trains powered by diesel locomotives and transported overseas on oil-burning ships and turned to steel in massive blast furnaces at 1700 degrees C, which are powered by coal typically. And of course, you need even more coal to provide the carbon to turn the iron into steel. Then you've got to roll the steel into really, really thin sheets of metal using even more heat and mechanical work from hydrocarbon energy, CO2, sounding like a broken record. You need to dip the sheet metal in molten tin using heat and mechanical work, CO2, and put it back on a ship, CO2, and then manufacture the actual barrels in a factory, CO2, and take them to the veggie oil factory to be filled, CO2. And then you've got to transport the finished barrels of veggie oil to the roadhouse on the bumfuck meridian. Play that funky banjo, white boy. Finally, once all of that precious oil has clogged sufficient travellers' arteries, you get to burn it in your laudable but hardly CO2 neutral chip fat diesel generator. BiØfil Collins. Can you feel it coming in the air tonight? Like, I was there and I saw what you did. I saw it with my own two eyes. So you can wipe up that grin. I know where you've been. It's all been a pack of lies. Or at least an unwitting, gross misrepresentation of the underlying CO2 non-neutrality of this process from end to end. Personal opinion, for the reasons I just stated. To Sammy J from Chinese Electro Swede Australia, I would say it's very difficult seeing how this could even approach net CO2 neutrality, Dudette. No criticism of you is intended here. I just think you fail to comprehend the process and its complexity. You cannot just magic away all of the energy in the processes which separate the sunflowers or the canola or something from the friggin' oil on site. You just can't. They're part of the chip fat CO2 deal. It's not just photosynthesis and chip fat and burning. Life cycle analysis, like, come on, it's not that hard. The manufacturing CO2 is already friggin' up there in the clouds like God right now, conducting nightmare hellscapification on the climate. It just is. All of the CO2 from all of the industrial processes which are intrinsic to the manufacture of agricultural products such as this and everything else, that's a massive component which inconveniently exists and it cannot responsibly be swept under the rug, and therefore it undermines this fantasy green CO2 neutral narrative. Oops-a-daisy. Hashtag facts. There's really no getting around this. Plus, pro tip, this kind of thing, chip fat charging, like, it simply does not scale. Check out these dicks from overseas. They picked up the story and the editorial stupidity here is just mind-boggling. This is not our 9, still the one, the Costello's cockheads one. This is 9 Miracle. Cooking oil EV chargers may help Australia phase out petrol cars sooner than batteries or solar power. Well, thanks Sky Fairy, the American media is still dumber than ours. Otherwise, there would be nowhere to point an accusing finger. Here in Shitsville, we drink 30 billion litres of liquid hydrocarbon fuels every year for road transport. About 20 billion in petrol and about 10 billion in diesel. Just to put that in perspective, okay, that's 2 boxes full of fuel, right? They're each about as big as a football field at the base. The petrol one stretches 2 kilometres up into the sky, but the diesel one is only 1 kilometre high, okay? In other words, they'd be the highest fucking man-made structures on the planet by a considerable margin if we stored it that way. And I know it's not practical to build boxes like that and put all of that fuel in them. I'm just pointing it out like this, right? To give you some idea of the scale of our liquid hydrocarbon drinking problem. The Burj Khalifa in Dubai, which Tom Cruise hung out of in Mission Impossible so memorably, it's 830 metres high. Biggest building on Earth, okay, just saying. We simply cannot put a meaningful dent in our thirst for fuel with EVs and chip fat generators. Chip fat is literally a drop in this particular ocean. According to the Shitsville oilseed industry, I didn't know we had one, Australia uses over 600,000 tonnes of oils and fats, mostly in edible applications. And I can see that because Tiffany and I use 100 kilos of Dairy Whip per week, for example. So we're doing our bit there. The total consumption of veggie oils is like 500 million litres, which is less than 2% of the volume of liquid fuels we consume. Chip-fat EV chargers are therefore absolutely not a salient part of any rational climate action plan. They're a sideshow at best. Like, props to Mr. Edwards for implementing a bespoke, novel, remote area EV charging solution using an inexpensive waste product in a situation where photovoltaics would be uneconomical. Well done, dude. Hashtag respect. I mean that sincerely. But as for Chinese Electro-Swede Australia, Polestar, as for them, spinning this up as some kind of net zero CO2 undertaking, that seems to me to be completely at odds with how the real world actually functions. Kind of like the concept of saving the planet by buying an EV. You cannot conveniently forget the carbon cost of manufacturing anything just because it makes your story greener. Driving a Polestar 2 across the Nullarbor was good enough without alleging this was in some way equivalent to an actual pioneering feat or CO2 neutral. Sometimes less is more. It certainly is if credibility matters. I'd expect a company whose only trick is making luxury EVs in China and calling them Swedish, I'd expect them to know shit like this about carbon and life cycle analysis. Because carbon neutrality would seem to me to be foundational to the Polestar business model. Suggesting the CO2 emitted from burning the chip fat is the only emission, neatly balanced by the CO2 absorbed by photosynthesis, and therefore aren't we so fucking green? That's a comprehensive failure of basic scientific literacy, in my view, or it's just agenda-serving bullshit. In any case, this is exactly the kind of bullshit which, in my estimation, stands in the way of actual effective climate action. Effective climate action is very unsexy indeed. Like, there's no chip fat angle. The car industry wants you to believe the excruciatingly bullshit narrative that you can help save the planet by consuming even more cars, especially Chinese Electro-Swedish ones in this case. Unfortunately, reality just doesn't work like that. Effective climate action starts with moving out of bullshit world and re-engaging with reality.
So take that. The main reason why I put this on is, apart from some parts of it being sort of funny, is he had some parts dead right and other parts dead wrong. So, you know, obviously, like I said before, he messed up because he presumed that you were creating the vegetable oil for the prime purpose of burning it in a diesel generator, and that's obviously not the cause. So all of that thesis is completely wrong. I think his slight dig at Pulse. Sorry?
Has Rob spoken to John Cadogan? He's quite reasonable when you talk to him.
Yes, and I think, look, I think he would probably admit his error, because he said it very eloquently about all the carbon that's involved in the processing and creation of canola oil or oilseed oil. But and that's dead true. But the point is, in the biofuel situation, the alternative to that oil is it either gets burnt on a rubbish pile, or it gets dumped into the ground. And on that basis, any energy you extract out of it and put into an electric car is free energy in every metric, absolutely free. Now, there is something, I'm just going to try and bring this up. He was also wrong about Polestar driving in air-conditioned comfort across the Nullarbor, because what I've got is just talk amongst yourselves for 2 seconds. I just got to find something. So actually, Pete, you might be able to talk to the economics. But one thing John also, wrongly said was it doesn't make climate sense to create new cars for the purpose of, using less greenhouse gases. But obviously the point you're going to make, Pete, is that if you're going to manufacture a new car anyway, it obviously makes much more sense for it to be an EV. Oh, you're muted. Sorry, Pete. Pete, you're muted.
Sorry, Harold. I was just saying, I only got bits of that. You were really broken up.
Oh, sorry. What what I was saying is that one other issue that John had incorrect. This is John Callaghan. Is that it doesn't make sense to save. You can't save the planet by building more EVs instead of like building brand new EVs because of all the embodied energy costs and all that sort of stuff. But obviously, it makes a lot of sense if you're going to build a brand new car anyway for it to be an EV as opposed to a fossil car.
Yeah, right. Of course. Yeah. Look, the best way to look at it, and the way I always like to look at it, is look at it from the planet's point of view. So, does the planet really care what John Canoden says, or what the car gets built, where it gets built? All he cares is about the net amount of carbon that goes into the atmosphere. And so, if you have a look at it, and there's two options. Option A is to build an internal combustion engine. Option B is to build an EV. Then obviously building an EV is better for the planet than building the ICE car. And similar to the biofuel, if the option is to take that oil and chuck it into a landfill and have 30 times the carbon footprint as a result of the methane emissions versus burning it and powering an EV, as opposed to an internal combustion engine burning petrol, then obviously the planet is better off. It doesn't have to be a rocket science.
Wasn't the payback on an EV within the first few thousand K?
Oh, it's less than about 18 months. So depends on how many Ks you travel. But even if you travel the average of about 15,000 K, it's less than 2 years.
And if you're comparing keeping an older vehicle on the road that is inefficient and everything's coked up anyway, then I'd imagine that, if you're comparing a brand new tuned fossil fuel engine to a 20-year-old one, I'd imagine the payback with EV would be quicker. But you're absolutely right.
And on top of that, you've got to add on all the servicing that you need to do with that 20-year-old car, and all the parts that you're replacing, they get flown in from halfway across the world, and all the rest of it. So
it's like, I did watch his thing as satire, but it's just this whole argument of like, well, you've got to start somewhere. One bit that I noticed, he said, "Oh, things are being moved by diesel electric locos." Well, BHP have just announced that all 180 of their locos are going to go to electric. So, it's
is that battery electric? Is that battery electric, Richard, or is that catenary lines battery electric?
I'll have 2 seconds. Talk amongst yourselves.
Okay. While we are talking amongst ourselves, I'll just play this quick video because
just before we go off.
Yeah, go, John. Go.
Can I just make a couple of closing comments about that guy's comparisons, right?
Yep.
Now he's, look, I think he makes a fair comment, right? I think you just can't say burning this waste canola oil is carbon neutral. So I accept that, right? Because there has been, as he rightfully says, it's been harvested with diesel burning harvesters, it's been transported with diesel burning trucks, et cetera, et cetera. So, to be exact, he is correct on that point, right? However, if you are at Carguna Roadhouse and you want to get a kilowatt hour of energy into your car, right? So, and the choice you've got is a barrel of diesel sitting there or a barrel of waste oil, right? They're the choices you've got. They're the only choices you've got unless you invest $500,000 in a solar system. So assume that's not there. So the canola oil is going to have a harvester burning some diesel to produce it, a truck to bring it out there. But my goodness, that barrel of oil, you've got massive drilling rigs drilling those wells, and only 1 in every 10 of those wells comes in, right? You've got an army of ships out there servicing those drilling rigs. I know because I've worked on them, right? Those guys are burning that much fuel. And not only that, when they're drilling and when they're producing, they're flaring off heaps and heaps of gas. I mean, the efficiency, the amount of hydrocarbons that get burnt and wasted, and then the shit gets transported to some refinery, same thing all over again, then the truck to bring it out to Kaiguna. So if you get the equivalent barrel of oil or kilowatt hour of fossil fuel and the equivalent of biofuel, let's call it, that's he's got a point. He's definitely got a point. But I'll tell you what, the point would be diminished into insignificance if you looked at the amount of hydrocarbon used to produce hydrocarbon, right?
And the point that he's lost is he's lost the fact that he hasn't understood that the alternative use of that waste oil is for it to be dumped. And the point is you are diverting it because it's going to get converted to energy of one sort or another, either by methane warming the atmosphere or burnt.
I think he gave us credit for that. He slipped.
Yeah, he did, and he rightly, and John, and that's why I wanted to put it on, because he used two opportunities to congratulate you personally on what you've done, because he has no qualms with what you've done. What I think he was poking some criticism at was Polestar, who he considered, sort of breezed in on that glory, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think he's just homed in on the wording they've used, and they've used generic wording which they've extracted from probably some of my wording, right? And in the scheme of things, he's probably right? But what worries me about this kind of thing is, well, what's his solution? Let's shitbag an initiative, and okay, some Chinese company or Swedish company or whatever they are, tried to make a bit of press out of it. But what's wrong with that? I mean, it's anyway.
Speaking of which, this is how. So he said that the Polestar drove in. This is how it actually came to Kaiguna, and there's no secret about this because Polestar actually said that the car was shipped to Kaiguna and then drove to Southern Cross. So, for interest's sake, we'll just see how it actually arrived at Kaiguna.
Oh dear.
Oh, sorry. I'm trying to get this to work. Why is it not working? Oh, sorry. Hang on. I'm just going to have to just talk amongst yourselves for another moment.
Where's this pygmy from anyway? This some midget show, is it, or something? Have I missed something, or some sort of circus freak show going on, or where'd you get this from, Harold?
He has his own. He has his own agenda. That guy.
Is he from Australia, or is he from?
He's Australian. He's definitely Australian.
He's Australian.
It's on a Tongan island.
He has his own radio program.
Oh my God!
He used to advise the government.
Yeah, you can tell that.
And he used to be the managing director of a Mercedes company, and he hates Mercedes because he found that they were not conducting business lawfully. So he gives them a big bad wrap up all the time.
I just like to say that those words might be prefaced with the word allegedly. Just saying.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, he's working. He's at Fringe World. He's a part of the circus show. Is that allegedly right? I believe. Or?
Yeah.
Before I bought my Volt, that was our first sort of plug-in hybrid 5.5 years ago. I emailed John. How do you pronounce his name? Is it
Cadogan?
Cadogan.
It's a Cadogan.
Yeah.
Oh, it's from the Ukraine.
Cadogan. John Cadogan. That's it. So I emailed him and I asked him what he thought about Holden Volt, and I explained my reasons, and he was kind enough to reply. But it was a fairly lengthy email, and he went to quite some trouble to tell me not to buy it.
Yes.
And the best thing I ever did was buying that car. So.
Okay, so I've found this video, so we'll just go straight to it because it is getting on. Let's just shoot now. So what you can see is the whole cab, so the whole back part moves backwards.
Also. Yeah. Wow.
And then it actually and then they just drive out on ramps.
Yeah, I've seen that before. That happened in Port Hedland about 8 years ago. We were doing a job up in Port Hedland for a Hyundai, and the owner of Hyundai was going up there, and they took a whole pile of cars up there to make out that Port Hedland drove a Hyundais everywhere. It's the same sort of hoax.
I love that there's a Model X in the background that just drove there.
Yeah, and that Model X drove itself all the way, and it towed a 2,200 kilo trailer for about half the way.
Look, the princesses and
Like,
wives.
why is it there? I don't understand. Like, was it just like free advertising for them or something? Like, why do they do this?
Hang on, we'll get to that in a sec, Russell.
Sorry.
I was at the accommodation. Did you have the suite, Harold? The presidential suite?
What's the range
on?
All the hoo-ha I've been reading about this Polestar in the last couple of days, and there's not one mention of it going there on a flatbed, eh?
And I bet,
They
I bet
keep
you
that bit out.
there was no one mention of it going home on the flatbed either.
No, that's right. That bit, they keep that out.
It went home as well, Pete.
Yeah. Was it in Southern Cross that it couldn't charge on the?
I don't know. I read an early version of an article on The Driven that said that it drove
I read the same one.
from Kaiguna to Southern Cross and no further because of what was quoted as being a technical issue, but I don't know what that was.
Because apparently that driver get back to Sydney or Melbourne or something. But yeah, then that was quickly redacted only 10 minutes later.
Right. So what I can confirm, and this is a first, because not only is John's BiØfil a first, but it was put in there for a purpose, and the purpose was to make travel across the Nullarbor possible, or at least more comfortable. So what a Model S and a Model X did was go from effectively Border Village, then Eucla, and charged at Eucla, then charged at Madura Pass, which is where John's 20 kilowatt DC charger is, then charged at Kaiguna, at the BiØfil. And this, by the way, is the very first test charge on the 12th of January 2022. And that's a Tesla. Then the next morning...
So it wasn't a Polestar, Harold?
Polestar had the ceremonial first charge.
Yeah. Oh, the ceremonial.
But the
Still on the truck.
But the Tesla did the first, and that's a proper official photo. And there's footage taken. John, that's Troy.
Yeah, it's Troy
And-
and Gary.
Gary, that's right, Gary. Awesome.
Gary.
And there's John, of course.
Gary's the boy that's going to look after it. He's the maintenance guy there at Kaiguna, so he's going to fill up the oil drums and check the engine over, start it and stop it and do all that. So
Yep, awesome. So then the very next morning, a Model X left Kaiguna, then charged at Baladonia, and at Baladonia there's another. Again, this is John's charger, a 20 kilowatt DC charger, which transforms the experience in Baladonia. And then that same Model X drove from Baladonia to Norseman and charged at John's temporary DC charger. Then it drove without stopping to Southern Cross and charged at John's temporary fast DC charger, and then drove all the way into Perth without stopping.
It's impressive.
So, and then, getting back to, and then the Model S, Rob Dean's Model S went from Border Village to Madura to Kaiguna to Baladonia to Norseman, did the same route, and then went south to Esperance. So John, in his ABC interview, or was it Troy, said if they build it, they will come. And John built it, and several of us came and used it. So there's already been demonstrated proof that you can go from Eucla to Norseman using John's BiØfil and the two other additional chargers. And there was already 2 cars that have already done it.
There you go.
And that's the proof. And one of those cars went all the way to Perth. Sorry, go.
And Harold, you should also mention that Model S has gone around Australia a couple of times already, and that Model X has gone across the Nullarbor already and around Australia as well.
Yes, Rob would be rather tired if he had done it twice. He's only done it once, but he's been across. Rob, you've been across the Nullarbor, but you've been around Australia once. You're number 10.
Yes, 10 around Australia, across the Nullarbor 3 times.
Right.
There you go.
Across the Nullarbor 3 times and around Australia once, right?
Yeah.
And I've only been halfway across the Nullarbor, well, to Eucla, and around Australia once. But that's not the last time either Rob nor I will be going around Australia.
Harold.
John.
Can I just say something? In defence of Polestar, right? I mean, they obviously tried to create a story for themselves, and I think that's fair enough. I mean, obviously we can pick holes in it and all the rest of it. I mean, they did invest a lot of money, and a lot of the stories that came out did have a lot to say about BiØfil. And I'll be honest with you, I was not. I mean, originally this was an EV owners trip, volunteers, and these guys wanted to come along and be first, and I wasn't really comfortable with the idea, and I actually did discuss it with you, Harold, and I think Rob as well a little bit, and in the end, it was only on the basis that they made a significant contribution to the crowdfunding that really I was happy for it to go ahead. I wasn't overall happy, but I thought, well, at the end of the day, if they're going to put some money towards what we're trying to do here, and they want to create a story around it, I don't think any of us cared about being first.
No. Well, and to be clear, to be perfectly clear, it's absolutely appropriate that Polestar, and there's nothing wrong with them being the ceremonial first, and they actually were. It is true, because as on that PlugShare post, and that's accurate, the first charge was simply a test charge just to make sure the system worked. and Polestar rightly had the ceremonial first charge, and that's absolutely appropriate.
That's good. And I told them we're going to have to test charge before we do the ceremonial charge anyway, because that thing's never been plugged into my charger. My charger's got old software and not been updated because just for reasons, right? But anyway, before we go too hard on Polestar, they have contributed to the campaign, which is helping what we're trying to do. So that's not
Exactly
bad.
right.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that end, I'm gonna do I've actually filmed. Robin has filmed a review. Well, me doing a review. So to show that we are actually fair and balanced, and we're not anti-Polestar whatsoever. I'm just going to try and find this video.
I think it's a good thing that you take the cash, John. Doesn't matter. Take the money, and you can put it back into more charges.
Well, yeah, I mean, I basically had to give them an ultimatum in the end. I said, look, it's not going to happen unless you contribute. I said, this has all been done by volunteers and hardworking people's money. I mean, there's donations as small as $10 in this campaign. People are finding what they can to put in, and then you got a corporate sweeping in. Well, I just said, well, you got to contribute, and that was it.
They can pay for a tilt truck to drive around. They can pay for your time, and they got the money. So
in 2 seconds we'll get this video loaded, but we'll show that obviously we're not. Well, actually, the Polestar, I had a sit inside, and it's a very nice car, to be honest. And you'll see that in a couple of moments once we load this video. It's just downloading. So yeah, we're not poking.
John, are you able to disclose how much Polestar chipped in?
well, they bought the first round of beers.
No, John, there's no need to that. Some of that stuff might be commercial or whatever. And the thing too is they chipped in a lot of they paid for a lot of expenses to do with filming and things like that, which is intangible. Well, it's it's an indirect cost.
There's a couple of facets. One of them I didn't realize until I actually spoke to Jürgen as well. Jürgen's the guy that drives the race car, right? And just I didn't know it and didn't appreciate it, but he said just having the association with a brand like that, actually, or when I say like that, like a significant brand, actually does lift the profile of what we're doing, right? Now Tesla don't do that sort of thing, and that's their business, whatever, right? But to have that actually association helps us in a way, right?
Yep.
So Jürgen pointed that out to me, that's not a bad thing, right? And then the footage, they sent a film crew out there, and the deal was that we would have up to 10 minutes of whatever footage of that we wanted for our own purposes, right? So that was quite a bit of value in getting that. And then, look, I don't want to disclose the amount, but it is significant, right? It is a decent chunk of, and it hasn't come yet, but it's been promised. And the guy I'm working through in the UK, his fees are going to come out of that. So there'll be some publishing this through Reuters, all the international stuff. There'll be some stories. So his fee will come out of it, and the balance will come into the campaign, and it is enough. It's significant contribution to be worthwhile for all the trouble we went to accommodate them. So in balance, I think we've done okay out of it.
Well, one thing that's definitely a big positive is the amount of publicity that's come out of it, and in non-traditional EV channels as well. Which is really where you want to be, cutting through. So overall, I think it's a great success.
Right. Well, I personally hired a PR person to make all those linkages. So that wasn't paid for out of the Cup Chuff campaign. I paid for that myself. And boy, I was on a learning curve with how all that works, I tell you. So I'm a bit better armed to deal with it better in the future. But overall, I think the lady did a good job, and we got a lot of we got West Australian, which is hard to get into. Oh, you get in there, Pete, fairly easy, but it's hard for me to get in there. So.
Yeah, but since he's taken the prison line, the new prison growth look has been a bit harder. But yeah, when he was before prison, before he was shaved and clean cut, he used to get a lot of PR. Now it's just
let's give Polestar some kudos, and this is a short little video. It only goes for 8 minutes, and it's a little review of part of the Polestar. So we'll just run this and see how it goes. Maybe we won't.
Hey P, is it true that you're filling in for Djokovic?
Novak's Djokovic.
Novak's, yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, I agree with. I mean, you know, he should have never been allowed here in the first place. But we couldn't have, you know, stuffed it up anymore. And to be fair to him, you know, to be here for 2 weeks and go through all the rigmarole that he did, he shouldn't have, you know. Anyway.
Okay, we got to hang on. All right, sorry, before we get into stuff that we're going to put on pause, let's just shoot straight to the video.
You've also got
one nice touch. You've also got a nice little illuminated logo off the glass roof, which is a nice little.
That's a nice touch.
You break down, you get some help.
All right, let's have a look at the front. Most important side, driver's side. Plenty of room, absolutely plenty of room. We've got a binnacle, which is looking pretty good, and a portrait touchscreen. And down from the touchscreen, we've got a gear shifter. To the left, we've got a manually operated glove box. And one great feature is there's actually a paper manual, which basically has charging cable instructions and also an instruction manual. For mobile phones, we've got a Qi charging pad here, and we've also got under this flap 2 USB-C connectors. And there are 2 connectors in the back, which I think we've seen earlier, just down there. And here we have the surround camera image, which is very cool. So you can see people going around the actual car, which is really excellent. Okay, let's look at the camera system. So we press on the camera icon and we get a 360 camera image. We can actually look at the front, and then we can go to the rear shot, left, right, and back to 360. So 360 is really cool because you can see all around the car any objects that might get in the way. Okay, we've got the maps up, and we'll just zoom out to see where we are. Cool, and then we'll have a look at the car menu items. And we've got drive, so we've got steering feel, obviously on standard. We've got one pedal drive. You can have it off, low, or standard. Creep can be on or off. Creep basically allows the car, when you take your foot off the brake, to creep forward, so it feels more like a automatic transmission car. We go into the assist menu, and we've got driver support, so we've got adaptive cruise. We've got lane keeping, which is a little bit like Tesla's autopilot. That's on. We've got a driver alert system. Probably will alert you if you're getting distracted or you need a break. You can also have road sign information, which will pick up speed limits, children's zones, school zones, and some other signs, possibly no entry. We've also got collision avoidance, which is set to standard. You've got a couple of options. You can have early, which is always a good thing to do, or late if you want to not be pestered with too many nags. You've also got ready to drive notification. So that basically, if you turn this on, it won't actually drive forward unless there are no cars or obstacles in front of you. You've got a charging screen. So this car is currently at 94%. You can change your charge levels anywhere from 40% up to 100%, and you can change the current on AC charging. You've also got a schedule, so you can schedule when to begin charging. So you can actually, this one's great, you can actually schedule when it starts, and then you can schedule a start and an end time. So for instance, if you wanted to, let's go round the 24-hour clock, which it's not going, there we go. So we can say start charging, say if we're on the Synergy EV tariff, we can start charging 11:05 PM and then finish at say 3:55. So that's a great feature. Okay, we'll just disable that for now. We'll go out of schedule, and then we're going to more, and you've got some more menu items. You've got car status. So it's good, it's got no warnings. You've got tyre pressure. It probably won't show at the moment because the car has to be in motion for about 100 metres or so. We've got recommended next service is in 635 days, or after looks like about 30,000 kilometre total interval. By look at this car's done 3,000 odd kilometres, so that's about right, 3,109 kilometres. So it looks like their regular service intervals are 30,000 kilometres. We've got locking, so you can obviously have some features such as child locks, whether it's a driver door or all doors, so that's quite common with most of these sort of cars. You've got interior light options, so you can have interior light intensity and mood light as well. We've got mirrors, so you can obviously adjust the mirrors. You've got auto tilt in reverse, and you've got also auto dimming. So what that'll basically do is if someone has high beam behind you, it will automatically tint and darken the side mirrors. Wipers. You've obviously got automatic wiping function, so whenever it's raining, it will wipe by itself. And that's it for the main menu items. Then we follow on with, we've got Google Maps, we've got Google Assistant, a range assistant, which will basically tell you how your car is going, how many kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers that you're consuming, and what the projected range is. You obviously got radio, Bluetooth via your phone or any other Bluetooth device. In this case, we've got local Sydney radio station, and there's no reception at the moment. So this is digital audio broadcast. Okay, we just put the Google Play Store, well, it's offline at the moment because there's no connectivity. But at the bottom we've got the air conditioner controls. So we just select auto, and we've got some features here where you can do manual recirculation, max defroster, rear defroster. You've also got a couple of settings. If we go into here into climate, so you've got auto passenger seat heating and driver's seat heating and steering wheel heat. You've got an air quality sensor, you've got an auto rear defroster, and a recirculation timer to avoid fogging. So that basically puts the air conditioner into a recirculate mode automatically to dry out the air before it puts fresh air through. It's an awesome car. So all in all, this is a pretty awesome car. It's very comfortable to sit in, and it's a car that I'd quite enjoy driving. So I think it's a big thumbs up for us. And there you go, for those of us who are still awake. That was a fairly positive review of the Polestar. And there are a few other videos we cobbled together, but yeah, we'll put that as one package sometime soon. So yeah, it's a great car.
Just to throw in there, Harold, when you asked the truck driver if he can do the video, he sort of said he didn't say yes or no. So you said, "Oh, I'll take that for a yes then." And he was very. I kept him distracted for as long as I can, but he had the spray and wipe, and he was saying, "Oh, as soon as I finish, I need to clean the car down for the journalist." So he was hovering around the car while you were doing that.
That's true, and look, yeah, I think I stretched it a bit because he couldn't say no because he didn't know whether to say no or not. I took it as a yes, and look, I think there's nothing wrong with the car. I mean, personally, I love my Model X, and
How much are they, Harold?
I have no idea. I think they're 83 or something.
No, there's no
Do they have
price
autopilot
yet for Australia.
So say again, Pete?
There's been no official pricing yet announced for the Australian market.
Cool.
When are we going on mute? When are we going on pause? Sorry. When's that going to happen tonight?
Well, once we sort of sorted the normal niceties out, we I guess what time is it? Oh yeah, okay, it's getting on. But yeah, we will go on mute a little bit later. I'm trying to think of stuff to mute. Oh, obviously there's lots we can talk about on mute.
I've got stuff to talk about, but also in the meantime, if you want to go back to regular Tesla stuff, I can share an experience from last week that I had that might be interesting for people. So
yes,
I've had my car since the start of September, and the whole time I haven't paid for any electricity since I've had it. I've done about 5,000 kilometers since September, and till to date, I haven't actually had to pay for any charging, which has been quite convenient.
Supercharging?
No. So I haven't used a supercharger. I've only used like AC charging at places where it's free. Yeah. Anyway, last weekend I decided that I wanted to try and use a supercharger because I had 15,000 Ks of supercharged kilometers. So I decided to
1,500, Russell.
Sorry, 1,500. Sorry, yeah. No, I did a lot of referrals, Pete. I preferred the mega pack chargers in California. So yeah. Anyway, but it took about because we weren't driving much because of COVID, but it took about 2 weeks of leaving my car on Sentry mode in my house to run the battery down far enough that I would be able to get to Karrinyup with not much charge. Even that, I had to drive around for an extra hour just to get the battery down low enough because I didn't want to go to Karrinyup with 40%. I wanted it to be below 20. So yeah, I drove to Karrinyup and used the supercharger there, and yeah, it was definitely a different experience. It definitely makes quite a loud noise when you plug it in, like a big humming, cooling sort of like noise when you first kick it off. But the process was really easy. The only thing that I found difficult was actually finding where it was in Karrinyup because you turn in, but I wasn't sure whether to go to the right-hand side or to go down into the basement bit. And the first time I ended up going above and had to do like a lap around through the petrol station and then back down again.
Hey, Russell, just for other viewers, if they're wondering where it is, Harold and I did a video of showing how to get there. And I think Harold has posted his on the Tokwa Twitter. I'm not sure if it's on YouTube as well. Pretty sure it's on our website too. So yeah.
I'm just trying to find it, Pete. You just keep talking and I'll find it.
It went from, I think it was on like 18% or something like that. I wanted to do what Pete suggested and go to 100% because I had the car for about 6 months and I thought, you know, it'd be good to give it to 100 just because once every 6 months or something to push to 100 and level out the battery packs or something. Anyway, I did that and it gave me a warning to say it's going to take way longer to go to 100 than it is to go to 90. Yeah, and the time it took to go from 90 to 100 was like the same time it took to go from like 20 to 50. It was crazy.
Slow.
But yeah, I actually ran into I can't remember his name, but the the Scottish guy that was on here a few weeks ago with his wife. They managed to buy one, and they were there as well. I think they got stung with a bit of like overstay charges because they were there before we got there, and they were still there when we were leaving, and the car wasn't charging. I think it was a packed house, so I think they might have got charged for that. But I put about 500 kilometers of range into it, but I only got charged 250 kilometers from the app on the supercharged kilometers, which was pretty cool. Yeah. So I'm sure that if you paid for it, you get the right amount, but with the free kilometers, I guess they just tokenistically you take off like an amount from your balance, I guess.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just slightly distracted. Here's
the good thing for me was, because I live in Coburn, the distance it takes to go from Karrinyup to Coburn worked out when I drove into my garage, I was exactly on 90%. So
from 10%.
Driving from 100 to 90% from Karrinyup to Coburn, it's perfect, which meant that I didn't have to do a few laps around the block to get the battery down below 90 to sort of sit it there. So it took about an hour all up to go from 18% to 100. Yeah.
And
cool.
when did you charge, Russell? Is that recent?
It would have been hang on, give me a calendar. It was Saturday, the 8th of January.
Okay. So have you checked your app or the website yet as to how many free kilometers you've got left? Like
I'll check it again now if you want.
Yeah, because sometimes it only takes off a certain amount, and then you find a day or two for some reason
takes off more.
Yeah, it just seems to.
It's like a testing.
No, I still got same amount, 1,250 remaining.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I definitely I did more than that, like 400 or 500 400Ks, whatever it was that went into it.
Oh, that's good.
Where does
go, Carmen.
Where does the kilometer show? That
at the bottom of the
app. You have to click on your profile on the top right of the app. So on your face, whatever you've got as your profile. And then you click on loot box.
Good night, John. Thanks. Sorry to interrupt. Good night, John. Thanks for coming. Once again,
thanks,
I just want to thank you for your awesome effort. It's an amazing system, and we've all got you to thank for it, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks for the support. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, mate. Good night.
Thanks, John. Before you go, if you ever need another driver for the car, just give us a call. I've got your back.
Okay.
Yeah.
No worries. Cheers.
Good night, John.
Russell, you really.
All right, so go, Carmen. So you're saying, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So I found mine. I've got 4,000. I've never used it.
Okay, now getting back to Russell said he was a bit confused on how to get there, and as George has sagely said in the chat, what you do is you use your car to navigate, and that'll get you to the intersection. So
I did that. But when you get to
so hang on, So this intersection, this is an old photo. This is when the supercharger first came up. But the intersection, Jones Street is on the left, and I forget what this right street is now called. But
it's called unnamed street in your car. It says unnamed.
Okay, it'll tell you to go to the right, and when you do so, you then go through this intersection. So you're going to this side here, because that's the only way you can go. And then, oops, sorry. Now, this is slightly different because you don't have this barrier anymore, but you actually go left downwards rather than right to the up. And what we actually did, and then what we did was we actually did a video of it. And this is me walking in the rain. And we'll just skip forward a little bit.
Just after he got ammonia. And
when I went there,
you should go back a bit. Sorry.
When I went there, I just hit supercharger north on the navigation.
No, Harold, before you go down the hill, go back a bit, mate. Where you got before you go down the to the basement, keep going a little bit further. Keep going. Yeah, there. If they had a T on that parking sign with a left arrow on it, it had a big T on it. I would have.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
But they didn't have a T on it. I thought, well, I'm going to go straight because it says valet parking. I don't want to valet. So I went straight, and then all of a sudden I ended up like in a stupid
Yeah,
spot. So
up at that's right. You go up to the top part.
I thought it was like valet only, like only people who get valet cars go that way. I was a bit confused.
No. So there should be a sign that says Tesla up here.
Yeah.
And then as you go around the corner, you don't go through those bollards as I'm doing right now because I'm magical. And then you just simply turn right, and it's at the end along here, which I think the video runs out where Pete's directing me where to go, right there where his car
And
is.
they've actually got 2 slow chargers just here as well now.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Russell, you weren't listening when I said to park next door to valet parking and you don't pay.
You know what, Carmen? When I went the wrong way, I remembered you said it after I was going the wrong way. I'm like, oh shit, valet parking. I remember Carmen saying that. I literally did, and I was like, ended up having to go around.
And Russell, the thing is, you were worth it. You're worth the valet parking. You should have just done that.
Yeah, I saw those club cars there. They got like limo club cars. They look pretty cool. I was hoping to get lift with one of those, but there was nobody around. So
limo club cars.
Hey Russell, did you hit Supercharger North on the navigation to go there?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it took me straight there.
Yeah, yep.
Just as a bit of another thing, Harold, which I don't know if someone's done this before. The intent was I actually drove there first. I hit Supercharger North. It drove me there. And I dropped my wife off to go shopping so I could drive around for another hour and waste the battery. And what I was worried, so I drove for another hour, then came back and then charged for an hour. Anyway, I was concerned that by pressing the button to go there, it pre-warms the battery. And when I got there, I thought the battery would be like so hot that I couldn't keep driving. But once I drove out of it, it wasn't a problem. I kept driving. When I pressed Supercharger North, I went all the way up to like Queen's Rock or something like that. I turned around and came back, and it was only probably when I got to that intersection right before the where you turn into Carrot, it came back on saying pre-warming because it's probably already so hot from driving for 3 hours or whatever before it was fine.
Yeah, it might. I don't know what the temperature, what its set point is, whether it's 40 degrees or I'm not sure. So you're right. It probably might have just cooled down a little bit. The system isn't that smart. It probably tries to generally cool down vicariously or passively, but then it might have gone slightly lower than its set point and then thought, oh, I'm actually going to a supercharger, so I've got to warm up, which is a bit suboptimal.
Yeah,
which is
so
code for.
but I wasn't sure it was going to
Yeah.
damage the battery if I pre-warmed it and didn't charge. That's all I was worried about.
Oh, no. All it does is it pre-warms it, I think, to about 40 degrees or so. The battery can quite sustainably be at 50 degrees for short periods of time. So, no, there's no issues. I think it only goes to 40. Yep.
So how come there's no Wi-Fi in the basement? Like I couldn't watch Netflix or anything. Is that? I thought you guys had spoken before to say there was Wi-Fi.
There's
All right.
no,
just went off.
3G, there's no 4G.
I'll tell you.
The whole comms in the whole shopping centre is.
Fuck. Yeah, totally.
I was literally sitting there for an hour with like, what am I going to do for an hour?
Correct.
Like,
go into the shops, but even
I did. I ended up doing that, but I didn't. I wanted to because my wife had already been there for an hour. She'd had it. She wanted to leave, and I'm like, oh, we'll just watch Netflix for an hour. I'm like, oh, fuck, connect to Wi-Fi. Nothing around.
They have restaurants. They have
we went
sitting
away for a while.
areas.
The problem was
playgrounds.
Because there was COVID, I had to wear the mask. I didn't really want to go walking around the
Movies.
shop. Yeah, there was COVID coming. I didn't want to go walking around with a baby.
COVID masks.
So we just stayed in the car most of the time.
Be safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and what the problem is that you get charged $1 for every minute that you overstay your welcome. So once you reach your charging whatever you set, your charging level that you preset, if the car then sits there without charging, as long as you're longer than 5 minutes, it charges you $1 for each minute.
Depends on how many cars are on the store, though.
50%.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
If there's more than correct. If there's more than 3, the
So-
6.
So Russell, you should have gone to Lego for a bit of entertainment.
Yeah, we did.
And-
I ended up walking
Oh,
around.
cool.
because I was pretty annoyed that there was no Wi-Fi.
Well, that's I'm gonna force that as an
There is actually there's Wi-Fi upstairs from Lego in the
Food hall.
restaurant area, the
Yeah,
food
yeah.
hall. There is and it's actually good Wi-Fi.
And,
I don't
and
have
you,
Wi-Fi.
because you can-
If I've got phone reception, I'm fine. But
Yeah,
isn't there phone reception in the actual shopping centre as well? That's fine. It's just
it's actually good Wi-Fi upstairs. But that's the only
So, okay, so you mentioned Lego. We've mentioned Lego twice, and I'm gonna force this as a artificial segue into something that I know. I'm going to allege that no one else has here in this room, and that is
he's got the Lego Cybertruck. Let me guess.
Lego Cybertruck.
What?
this is the Mega Blocks, and this is going to be a live unboxing.
He's been waiting to do this for the last 4
Harold,
days.
spotlight yourself first. Spotlight.
Spotlight.
Oh, spotlight. Okay,
Spotlight.
thanks, Russell. You got my back.
Yeah, spotlight. There you go. Much better.
Okay, so this is going to be a live unboxing.
Cybertruck. Nice. Oh wow!
And I might have to turn the background. That's actually a lot harder than it sounds.
Oh, I have to get how much are they, Harold?
I don't remember.
Oh, that's good.
That's it there, and I'm going to just.
Must have a rough idea.
No,
Have you got a
I
full bearing
don't.
to test the window strength.
Where did you buy it from?
From Mega Blocks, from Mattel in the States. So it cost, I don't know, a couple of $100 US or something. So it's in the back.
That's so cool. That's very
Oh,
cool.
I've not seen this yet, so I'm having a big problem trying to. There we go. So it's got the vault and all that stuff.
It's cool.
Does it come with a quad? Do you get the cyber quad with it?
It doesn't look like it. No.
And it's not Lego, it's Mega Blocks.
It's Mega Blocks. It's not real Lego because Lego refused to do it. So that's it.
Still cool.
That's the other side.
Is that for you, or are you giving it away, or what's the plan, Harold?
Well, if anyone asks, it's for a 4-year-old child, Harold. So piss off.
You just got to drive around the skills Harold and hang it out the window.
Yeah.
Well, it works better than lollies. So you know.
So I'm going to. Sorry, I'll just unspotlight myself. Oops. And return back to gallery. There we go. Yeah. So that you saw it first. I'm going to allege it's the first in Perth because it probably is. It took lots of months. I ordered it many months ago and only got it a few days ago.
Nice.
And that was a live unboxing.
There you go.
You can also add the stock price to the background if you want. That's open now, which is nice to look at.
Yeah, Hey, Harold, I thought you were going to put it together live as well on the show.
Just refresh, Harold.
I thought you were going to have
no, I thought it did refresh, Russell.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Yep.
Sorry, hang on a second, Pete. 10.
You're right.
Oh, 1038. Nice. Okay, nice. Then 37, whatever. Up is better than down. Yeah, that would be slow TV there, Pete. In fact, I've got to.
I thought you were going to around the top.
Clock around the clock, and there'll be one piece missing, and I'll go, "Where's that piece?" Like, oh. I don't know about that slow TV. Although I know Scott Manley has built Lego stuff, so maybe I might do a time lapse. Could do that.
You could time lapse it and make it go slower because that'd be like even better.
Maybe I should film it in 240 frames per second so you can see the preciseness of the placement. Actually, something I did film at 240 frames per second, and this is no joke, is the BiØfil that went to Kaiguna. So you know how I had the drone footage? It was on the back of this tip truck, and I filmed it being lifted 2 meters in the air to clear the back of the tip tray, or well, the side of it, the front part of the side. It was 2 meters in the air on a forklift, and I thought, there's either two things going to happen. One of two things going to happen. It either lands safely on the ground in one piece, or it just crashes and rolls and crushes and whatever. So just in case the second part happened, I filmed it at 240 frames per second because it would look awesome on YouTube. If we got, 10 million hits, it'd probably be worth it because, the revenue and stuff. But thankfully it all worked really well. But it looked super scary. But John assured us that it would be perfectly okay, and it was. But anyway. But yes, slow TV on the Cybertruck. Why not? That will be for our Patreon supporters. So if you want to see that footage, please subscribe to patreon.com/Tokwa.
I think you're killing it a bit there, Harold. I think that's not really a positive to get people to join Patreon.
On the other hand, if you're at the top tier, at the plaid level, you can vote for it not to be on Patreon and not to be it'll be recorded, but it won't be publicised. So I don't care which way the money goes. We'll go for the highest bidder. Now, speaking of bidders, it's also great to report that if we look at the Chuffed campaign, the most recent supporter is Simon Holmescourt.
Get out. You serious?
Wow.
No way.
So I dare suggest that all of us and anyone watching this on the YouTube channel, which is just search Tokwa under YouTube, we should tweet out to Simon Holmescourt that well done, and please publicise this effort, because the more people that know about it, the better. So congratulations to Simon. Well done.
If that's, could I just donate as Elon Musk? We sure it's him?
Look, Elon Musk works in mysterious ways, and maybe Simon did it on his behalf. Although $500 is a rounding error, but it's a great. It's still great to show support. It really is. So yeah, let's tweet out to him and say so, and for him to pass the message on to everyone else. And as Charles said earlier, why not have these BiØfils at Border Village and Nullarbor Roadhouse or similar? But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. That was a few hours ago, but yeah. Good on you, Simon, for participating. All right, anything else? Go, Carmen, sorry.
Disruptive technology.
Well, the thing is, it's a trailblazer. It's akin to having a 44-gallon drum at the side of a dirt road with a hand pump. It's not it's not elegant. Well, no, that's the wrong term. It's the best thing you can do with the resources that you have, and it gets the job done. And that's all you need. You need the job done first, and then people, you build it and they start coming, and then when more and more people use it, then eventually it'll be replaced with something that is more expensive and harder to do, but it'll be worth it then. But if you don't build it at all, no one can come except for idiots like me and Rob, and literally only probably 15 other people have been stupid enough to go around Australia in an EV. It's less than 20 people. I was number 6, Rob was number 10. I think there were a few Model 3s, but not many others. And I don't think any other car brands that are non-Tesla probably passed about number 9, 6, or number 8 even. I think past number 8, all of the crosses maybe to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If there's a 15, they're all Teslas. So
How long
Konas
did it
haven't
take,
done it.
Harold?
19 days.
Righto.
And a super quick comparison between AC charging, which is slow, and DC charging, which is fast. My first leg out of Perth was from Perth to Carnarvon. It's 907 kilometres, and I spent 7 hours and 5 minutes. I left home 100% charge, and I arrived at Carnarvon almost on 0. And in fact, at Nanyatara, I landed at 0. I drove 907 Ks, left full, arrived empty, and charged during the daytime on the trip for 7 hours and 5 minutes. On the other side of Australia, I left Canberra, went to Melbourne, and then went to Keith, which is just outside of Adelaide. That's over 1,200 kilometres, and it took less than 2.5 hours of supercharging. So they were 2 very different days, very different days. And as I've said before, in Geraldton, I had so much time on my hands, I managed to walk literally 1 mile to the swimming pool, bash out 1,000 metres of swimming, get dressed, walk another mile back to where my car was, and there was still time left over where I had to wait for my car to complete charging. So the difference between AC charging and DC charging is just chalk and cheese.
Yes.
So
that was the first time you actually swam as well, wasn't it? How did you learn how to swim and manage to still?
That's right. I got my junior certificate, and then I went to the intermediate certificate. I almost got my senior, but I was getting a bit tired. So, yeah. Whereas when I went to my first supercharger out of Canberra, which was Gundagai, where the dog on the Tucker box is, I plugged in, walked into Oliver's, ordered scrambled eggs and a coffee, and that literally took 10 minutes precisely. And just as they were passing it to me, my watch went off with the app on the watch, and it said my car was ready to go. So then I just unplugged, hopped in the car, sat the scrambled eggs on my lap, and ate it on autopilot down the Hume Highway.
Wow.
Safely. So that was the experience. And then when I went to the place where Ned Kelly was, there's a big Ned Kelly statue, starting with whatever. I forget the town.
Ballarat?
No.
Yeah,
Benalla.
no, it wasn't. Yes, Euroa.
I used to live in Shepparton.
Right. So at Euroa, I think from memory that supercharger is just opposite the park, and I went for a little walk around the park and had a little comfort break, and I think I had an ice cream at the Mr. Whippy or whatever, and in the 20 minutes I was there, tops, the car was ready to go again. So it's much more convenient than a petrol car where you've got to literally, get out of your car, attend to the petrol bowser, and then go in and pay and all that sort of stuff and waste time, and you can't be on the phone because you can't use your phone while you're pumping petrol and blah.
Provided you have a charger.
Oh, well, yes. Well, and obviously there was one. So that's the difference in convenience is fast DC charger. There's no compromise. It's super convenient. You're charging while you're doing something else useful. It was great. So, but yeah, so John sort of started something that once it's completed, and when you go to Europe or when you go to the States, that's what it's like. There are chargers everywhere, and that's all that needs to happen in Australia. And then there will be hundreds of people, and there'll be no such thing as pioneers, as mad people going around Australia because they sort of could or can or whatever. That's just what you do.
Yep.
But there you go. Glenn Rowan, Rob Dean says, yes, it was Glenn Rowan. Thanks, Rob. Yeah.
He's up late tonight, Rob.
He is. I must admit, we're all up late. Well, we are, because when we were on the Nullarbor, we went to bed early because we were getting up at Sparrows. We're up very, very, very early, and we had to go to bed before the cockroaches came out because and I tell you what, I don't know what Kaiguna put in their dongers, but my donger was full of about half a dozen flies and about 3 beetles, where they would come into the donger live and then just die. And they weren't dying of starvation because they weren't that. It wasn't that long. Like anything that came into that building just died, except for the humans, thankfully.
It's a VIP package.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe they had a bit of deodorant from the 1970s, because this thing, actually the walls, they were prefabricated and probably transported on trucks, and they were actually they looked like tilt slab panels, sort of, but they were actually beanbag beans. They were styrofoam beads mixed with cement or concrete powder and a bit of sand, prefabricated. And we knew that because the cars in the old days, in the 1970s, weren't very wide, so the openings aren't that wide, and obviously the odd Land Cruiser or whatever bashed into it, and it literally torn off a section of this opening, and you could see inside with the little styrofoam beads and cement. So yeah, Kaiguna is exactly the way it was in 1972, probably.
When John was being interviewed by the ABC, a Jew guy just slivered past.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Actually, Rob, I think I might have almost run over one because I was going west, and is a Jew guy, is that a light brown color, like a creamy brown? Right. This thing was hoiking it to the left, and I hope I just missed it, because I was doing 110, and it just flashed in front of me, and I think I hope I just missed it.
Did it show a snake on the
Actually, I did get it on Dashcam, but I haven't downloaded them yet. But no, I don't recall seeing a snake icon there, Russell. Elon, if you're listening, let's just push that update, shall we? It'd be good to see.
Adelaide, koalas too, because when you drive around there, there's always koalas on the road. So your little koala avatar, that'd be good.
And those drop bears. I mean, we got to have a drop bear icon, surely.
Definitely.
Cool. All right. Well, it's getting a bit late, so last drinks for anyone that wants to have a comment or question or whatever, or we might wrap this BiØfil special up.
Hey, when all the prime movers start going electric, will this electric superhighway cater for them, you reckon?
Oh yes. So and that's one of our great hopes is with Tesla, is that the Tesla prime mover, the Semi, what they call the semi, will come to Australia, and it can't because it's too wide by 50 millimeters, but there are moves across industry to increase the maximum width of a prime mover to at least 2.55 meters or 2.6. The Tesla semi is 2.55 meters wide, and our current limit is 2.5. So if that gets through, one great thing about the semi is that it's central control. So it's not left or right hand drive, it's center drive. So it's universal for either side of the road. But clearly it's so efficient, and it's so beneficial to the drivers, because in the 20 minutes that they have to do a mandatory rest break for anyway every, I forget if it's 3 or 4 hours.
8 hours, I think.
It can recover. I think it was 300 miles or 400 miles in 20 minutes of charging. And the great thing is, unlike refueling, we are actually actively holding the nozzle in. And coincidentally, we actually saw a truck driver putting in 500 litres of diesel at Kaiguna. And you can only imagine what that costs. But they've got to do that observing the high flow, Bowser. With the semi, you just plug it in and walk away, and you could plug it in, go to sleep, or have a break, or have lunch, or whatever. So yeah, absolutely, Damo. When the semi comes, that'll be a big impetus for Tesla to put, well, what would basically have to be solar powered mega chargers with battery storage.
Actually, guys, awesome. Actually, there was a really good article in the Driven. I'm trying to share it now. It was about the EV Council and the Australian Truckers Association. Rob, you might be able to correct me. Sorry, can you see that?
No.
Are you guys able to see anything?
Yeah, you can see that.
Yep.
Can you see that? Yeah, so, and they made some good points. So basically what they're suggesting is that the government help with some incentives in converting the fleet. And they were saying a lot of the trucking companies are owned by, small mum and dad businesses or, SMEs rather than big fleets. And they can't afford the upfront cost. But with, the AdBlue prices, this could be a perfect time to do it. But they raised some pretty good points. One of those being that, so it's the Australian Trucking Association and the EV Council. One of the points that they raised is that an electric truck is able to drive during the curfew hours because it doesn't make any noise.
Gear changes.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas
exhaust brake.
Yeah, diesel trucks aren't allowed to drive during those times.
That's dead right. And in fact, in Europe, well, or in many towns, you see the thing where it says noise abatement, and don't use your exhaust brake and other things. Awesome. Australia Post transition its fleet. Right. Fuso e-canter trucks. Cool.
They did that with their motorcycles. They went to those electric three-wheelers.
They're funny, eh, Jared?
15 grand each.
Yeah, not cheap. Oh, look, when you're handing out Cartier watches every week, what's 15 grand? Hey?
She was a little bit hard done by there.
Yeah,
Jared.
She got a pretty good payout, I'm pretty sure. She's been
but she was publicly and politically executed over that.
She was, it was pretty hard.
Yeah, very unfair.
And how much was the value of the watches? Good night, Carmen.
See you, Carmen.
Take care. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Good night, Carmen.
See you, Carmen.
And the value of those watches was it 30 grand or something total.
No. Total maybe they're about $4,000 each.
Yeah. So, and that was a multi-dozen million-dollar deal.
Yeah, correct.
Well,
But-
the next year they all got fantastic cash bonuses the next year.
Yeah, it's easy that way.
Far
Instead,
exceeding
yes.
the watches. Far exceeding
Yeah.
the watches.
That's it.
But it suited the political narrative at the time, and she just got absolutely
She did.
executed.
She got
Oh.
smashed.
So Russell, before we do go to bed, and we will sign off shortly, do you want to, is there anything to pause, or we're all
I've got
good?
Two things.
Yeah, pause.
Oh,
pause.
okay.
I've got something to say as well.
Okay, all right. Let me
Fucking
just
pause.
sort that out.
That little,
Now, apologies to Damon and Ashley and others that are watching this later on YouTube.
is he back in Perth?
Oh, he is actually. He
Oh,
did.
good. He's at Adelaide. Good.
He's had good old Damo. I mean, look, he was in Perth before Christmas, so
Good.
he was enjoying the fact that we were actually quite concerned. So
Yeah, we were.
thanks a lot, Damon, for not telling us.
Yeah,
Because we actually feigned a fair bit of artificial concern for you that you might not ever come back to Perth.
I wore my burnt orange shirt tonight in memory of Damon, just to make sure we don't forget him. Ever. I had to wear. I got my burnt orange on tonight, especially for.
So,
we
yeah.
can get the ribbons made up. Burnt orange ribbons. It's like
That's next. That's next. Now we're just going to make sure Damo gets out of Thailand.
Oh, there's a Damon and Damo. Oh my God, there's two. That's
Make sure Damo gets out of Thailand safely.
okay. All right, let's put this on pause in 2 seconds, and we'll do a countdown in 3. Well, welcome back to all you in YouTube land. I'm sorry you missed it, but hey, you should have been there. So it was entertaining. Has anyone else got any last comments, questions, anecdotes?
I'm going to stop wearing my burnt orange shirt in sign of
Oh,
Damo getting back to Perth.
so for Damon, well, Damo's not back in Perth,
Oh,
but
yeah,
Damon
Damon.
is.
Yeah.
So Damo, what colour shirt should we wear for you in case, in paying homage to you slumming it in Thailand?
I don't know. Black.
Black. All right, we'll be back in black. Well, or maybe not back.
actually, Harry, there was
Go, Russell.
Sorry, Damon. There was a link I put in previously. If anyone was interested in getting the understanding what goes into producing 1 litre of petrol compared to charging an electric vehicle, there's quite a good summary there. Maybe not watch it all now. It goes for quite some time, but if anyone wants to grab that link in the chat, it might be something to give yourself a little bit more education when people say, oh yeah, but electric vehicles are worse for the environment than what regular cars are. That stupid fucking thing.
So did you time it for 725 seconds? So it's part way through a video, most way through?
Oh no, I must have just grabbed it when I was just go back to the start. Yeah,
Go back to the start.
Sorry, I must have just done it when I was halfway through it. And
Okay, all right. So what I'll do is I'll just put that on. I'll check something. Okay, I'll just put
Damo,
that on screen.
did you get that RGB lighting effect for the car? Did you actually buy that?
No, I haven't got it. I was going to check it out when I go to Bangkok on my way home.
Fucking really cool. Very cool.
There's a shop in Bangkok that's got it all in stock.
Oh, really?
So I might go and have a look, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty impressive, that was.
Yeah, it looks nice, eh?
Yeah, Richard Cooper would be able to install that. Definitely.
Yeah. It's really clean. Like, I'm not into much sort of, I like a clean look, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is very clean.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to tell during the daytime.
Yeah.
You definitely only see it at night. It looked very cool. I was very impressed.
Yeah, it was nice. Sure.
So on that video, the bit that you spoke about before about how much diesel, oil, so that's actually in there. I think it said it uses 100 cubic meters every month of diesel.
100 cubic meters. What does?
The generators on a oil platform.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yes. Yep. Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so-
Absolutely.
Even this
But then
late,
they-
Russell throws the hard questions at.
But they then also talk about, so everyone
fine.
knows, like Pete said before, about solar's been better, right? Because it's way more sustainable. But they also go into talking about how most energy is derived in Australia with coal. And they talk about the impacts and what it is, the difference. And even if you consider worst case scenario with coal, it's still a better scenario. And it's not ideal, everyone knows that, but it's still a better situation than having a nice car. And then they talk about the myth around pulling lithium out of the ground and how bad that is for the environment. And actually use Australia as a case study and say that Australia has, like 50% of the world's lithium, and we've only got 0.25% of the world's oil refining, and that is more damaging to the environment of the world than all the lithium mining combined. Yeah.
In fact, the lithium mining process that we have, the hard rock lithium, which is lithium, basically lithium oxide, is when you go to lithium mine tour, which some of us have done and others will do next year, and we will have it again next year. That entire process, it's one of the rare mining enrichment processes which is entirely non-toxic. So their main reagent they use is oleic acid, which is basically purified olive oil, and the actual sand is a lithium oxide as opposed to a silicon oxide.
I agree with you, Harold. It's much more safer. And also, as I said to my wife the other night, as I asked her to pass me my seal pup fur boots, because I really care about the environment, I was very concerned. And yeah, I think it's a much safer process to go with the lithium side of things.
It is, yeah, it absolutely is. So that video is we just search EV or gas, what pollutes more. So clearly it's going to show the whole life cycle. And as we said before, if you're going to build a new car anyway, it's much better off being an EV in the total life cycle. So, and the point is, for anyone that says that, the battery packs are going to be chucked in landfill, it's just not true, because there's no better mine to extract resources from than a spent battery pack as opposed to a hole in the ground. So you would have a hole in the head to chuck that away.
Goes into that as well, and it describes that the most economical process would be actually take the battery out of the car, use it as mass storage for land-based applications.
Yep.
And then recycle it once it's done with that. So it's more of a rather than just out of the car, it's still useful.
And that cycle is more like 20 years. If you take it from car to storage to recycle, is 20 years.
Yeah.
Even
more.
Is Richard Chapman still there? Richard Chapman? You see his train story?
I think Richard's in a catatonic state, possibly.
He's normally up this time. He's normally stalking something, doing something.
He might be home though. So
yeah, that's right. He's not doing.
He could be home.
Around. Yeah.
No. He's not walking around on the acreage.
Yeah. Actually, Gina. Harold, just for like one quick second, can you go on pause?
Oh, hang on. Okay, right.
Sorry.
So apologies for everyone watching in YouTube land. We're going to pause. Well, thank you very much, Russell, for that interlude. That was awesome.
Sorry,
all right.
I'm crying a little bit.
I think we might go and call it. It's been an awesome. It's been a long 2 weeks since the last one. Happily, next week will be. Well, it's only 7 sleeps away. Thank you, everyone, for participating, especially those that are on YouTube. Please remember to like and subscribe. We're actually close to the ton. We're not as good as Pete's ahead of the curve with Pete. I think he's got twice as many subscribers as Tokwa does, but hey, we're trying to catch up. But yeah, I think we're at about 96 subscribers, so please do like and subscribe. And hit the notification bell. There's a couple of awesome videos from the BiØfil adventure, so have a look at those. Everyone here, thank you very much for being here. It's been great. Pete, all the regulars, Jared, look, Russell, the stayers, George, Richard, Peter, Nigel,
and Nigel's in witness protection. He hasn't been out to
Yeah, well, he is. Well, yeah, well, it's okay to lurk. And Damo, we hope you enjoy your stay in Thailand for the next 18 months or so.
That's why he's
we look
wearing
forward-
those safety glasses.
I tell you what, if need be, just give us your login and password for your car, and we'll promise to look after it. Really well. We'll take it down to Kwinana for a few hot laps. Don't worry, it's all right. We'll look after it. We'll plug it in every now and then. It's all good.
No
But yeah,
worries.
take care, everyone. Look after yourselves,
Take care,
especially in
Damo.
these fraught times. And
Thanks,
we'll
Alan.
look forward to
Night,
seeing
everyone.
you next week. Good night, everyone. Take care.
See ya.
Cheers.
Yeah.